degenerate, and sick.
Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put
Not good. Believe me, not good.
What's up, everyone? Welcome, dissidents, one and all. A pleasant good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. My name is Keaton Weiss, here, of course, with Russell Dobular.
Hola!
We've got 424 strong in the YouTube chat to start the evening. An incredibly impressive 343 in the Rumble chat to start the evening. So, what a crowd. Thank you guys all.
More and more people fleeing to Rumble, man. When we were on Jimmy's show the other day, there were more on Rumble at one point.
Yeah, Jimmy had more Rumble viewers than YouTube viewers when we were on live with Mr. Jimmy Dore. Yeah, we got a last-minute co-hosting gig. We did not know that morning that we were doing the show on Friday morning that we were going to be co-hosting the Jimmy Dore show. Otherwise, we would have announced it. That was pretty last-minute, but that was a lot of fun. Thanks to Jimmy.
You try arranging a goat sacrifice with that kind of notice.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's in the contract before you can go on. You're going to find a goat.
Yeah, it's tough. Tough business. They don't call it a cutthroat business for nothing. Haha. Yo, you know how tempting it was? If I could find one that worked, I would have done it, because Russell really wanted to do the sheep segment on Friday. Oh yeah, that's the thing. You know, I got a little bit of a bone to pick with you, not Russell, the audience. No, okay. with our audience. We put that sheep clip up on YouTube. Nothing. What? A few hundred people watch that? What's like? God forbid you guys should have some joy in your lives. Okay, we try to do a nice thing. We try to do a heartwarming segment. Well, you're not interested? Well, you just want to come on here and hate? Hate? Is that all this is about?
Pretty much.
Give some love to the sheep. Come on, show some love to the sheep. Watch that video.
Not too much love. I think that's illegal most jurisdictions.
I mean, wholesome timeline cleanse love for our sheep friend. Nowadays the videos about the sheep are really the only ones we're allowed to monetize. So if no one watches those, we don't make it. Can't really monetize anything these days unless you're talking about fucking sheep.
That's it. Sheep.
So go watch
orcas.
Our sheep video, please.
Even the orcas is on the line.
Yeah, exactly.
Depends
even
how much class perspective you bring to it.
Exactly. You're even
if they think you're advocating the destruction of yachts.
Exactly.
That could be the end of you.
Exactly. So even the orcas is risky. So go give some love to the sheep. Give us a few cents worth of ad revenue for a click on the goddamn sheep video. How's that? But yeah, no, it was great. I mean, it was a last minute thing, but thanks to Jimmy for giving us the call, and we had a great time. I think the clips came out great. I was pretty proud of the stuff that we were able to do with JD, and I know we said he was probably, so this is the reason why I didn't ever formally announce that he was going to be on tonight, because I knew he had a gig tonight. And I asked him yesterday how long he had, and he would have only had about 45 minutes. So I said, if it's tight, because if his show starts at 7 o'clock and he's on with us until 4:45 and it's an hour and a half away, he's got to get there. He's got to do the schmoozing, the backstage, the meet and greet.
It's a pain, yeah.
It's a pain in the ass. So I didn't want to put him out. I said, listen, if it's too tight, if it's a time crunch, just take it easy, do the show, the right way. Don't rush through everything on account of us. So yeah, we're gonna have him on. We're gonna shoot for next Sunday, a week from today. That's the tentative date we made. But we'll reschedule him and have him on later in the month, for sure. But yeah, that's why I never formally announced it, because I knew he had a gig. I was like, is there gonna be enough time? I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, I should be a week from today.
Yeah, because when we have Jimmy on, we were gonna do like 4 or 5 segments instead of our full gamut, because between the three of us we talk a lot. So if he came on tonight, we would only really been able to do one segment.
We're mouthy Jews.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Not like the broad on the panel there on Piers Morgan, but
right.
Not quite that mouthy.
Not that mouthy, but mouthy. And so we really would have only had time for, I think, like one segment with him if he came on tonight. So we will reschedule for when we have a little bit more time. But we have a lot of stuff to get to tonight. We thank you all for being here. Hit that like button. And please hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. Hit that follow button over on Rumble if you are over there. Really appreciate everybody being here this evening. We have a full show. Not only do we have a full show here, but it is Sunday, which means it is time for our post-show Patreon and Substack Q&A over on Rumble. So the way this works is every Sunday we have a post-show Q&A that's open to everybody over on Rumble. Patrons, paid Substack subscribers, and paid Locals members have call-in access to that Q&A. Everyone else is welcome to post questions in the Rumble chat. So if you're watching on YouTube now, after the show, if you want to join for the post-show after-party Q&A, just switch over to Rumble, rumble.com/do dissidents, where we have our post-game, and that is a regular feature that we're doing once a week, every Sunday night. It's been a lot of fun. I really think it's been working out great. It's a really kind of cool vibe over there, great atmosphere. The show's over, get to, loosen a button or so, chill out, and talk with you guys. So that's a lot of fun. We've really enjoyed those. Rumble.com/do dissidents at the conclusion of the program. But boy, do we have a lot to get to between now and the conclusion of the program.
To answer a question in the chat, yes, do dissidents fans are do dissidents. Dissidents, yes.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. We are coming up on 666 very, very shortly. We are already at 649 in the YouTube chat between here and Rumble. We are already well over, but if we can get 10 more in here, it'll be an early night for Iron Maiden. But why don't we get to segment number 1?
Out on tour. Out on tour next year.
Yep, out on tour. Russell's going.
Hopefully.
That's all I'll say.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that's all I'll say. I won't push it this time. All right.
We'll see. I'm like, it's 6:62. I'm like, I don't want to get into anything.
I know. We should wait for a few more people to get here. We won't.
All right, 665, 665. Come on, one more. One more.
Here we go.
One more. Okay.
Don't nobody
We made
leave.
pudding. We made pudding.
Oh, it's gonna stay there forever now. What about Emmanuel Macron?
Now it's gonna go back.
Oh,
675.
Before segment number 1, we are up to 675 in the YouTube chat. Jake, where are we at over on Rumble? 405. Beautiful. All right. What a night. What a lady. What a night. All right. Speaking of ladies, let's go to Emmanuel Macron for our first segment. So, folks, as you know, France has really cracked down hard on pro-Palestinian protests, so much so that in Paris they were actually banned. Funny, though, it's been an ongoing narrative. We've been talking a lot over the past couple weeks on the show how things that people in our space have been saying for a long time eventually come true, where media personalities, politicians are forced to admit that we were right. Well, France goes from banning pro-Palestine protests to Emmanuel Macron being the first world leader in the West, at least, to call for a ceasefire. Here he is on the BBC.
Condemn this terrorist attack and this terrorist group and recognize the right of Israel to protect itself and react. But day one, we say that this reaction and the fight against terrorism, because it is led by a democracy, should be compliant with international rules, rule of war and humanitarian international law. And day after day, what we saw is a permanent bombing of civilians in Gaza. And I think it's very important to say the whole story, but I think this is the only solution we have. This is fire.
Oh, where'd you get that? You steal that idea from the tens of thousands of people in the street who you told weren't allowed to be out there just a couple of weeks ago? Anybody who got fined or got a summons for being out there unlawfully, are those charges going to be dropped now? We're going to let that go now that the president calls for a ceasefire?
As I am sure you know, our country has a very unfortunate history of what happens to leaders when they ignore the will of the people.
Yep.
So I am listening because I want to keep my head, frankly.
It was prudent of me to call for a ceasefire. However, he does not go as far as to admit that Israel is in violation of international law. He still continues to cover for Israel despite calling for a ceasefire. We got a little bit more to play here.
It's impossible to explain. We want to fight against terrorism by killing innocent people.
Yeah, that's
You've
ironic.
talked about the fight against terrorism needing to be merciless,
The French
is the word you
irony,
used,
didn't they?
but not without rules. And you've just referred there to the high loss of civilian life in Gaza. Do you think Israel is respecting those rules, the international rules that you're referring to?
Look, in the very first days, it's clear that the emotion, the compassion, created a situation where everybody was just close to Israel and backing them and sharing the pain. And we do share their pain, and we do share the willingness to get rid of terrorism. We know what terrorism means in France. But I think there is no justification precisely to attack civilians.
Right.
What I would like to clarify with you, are you saying that Israel is guilty of breaking international humanitarian law?
Let's hear it.
Potential war
No,
crimes?
I'm here. No, I think it's not the proper way to approach a question.
Unbelievable.
We do recognize their right to protect themselves.
Right, we understand that. We understand that, but you're calling for a ceasefire, which must mean that there's something wrong with the way they're doing it, right? If there was nothing wrong with the way they were responding and they have the right to defend themselves, then why would you be calling for a ceasefire?
Right, you'd be sending those delightful pastries you people make.
Exactly. You people are known for.
And 1 month after this terrorist attack, I think it would be not the right way to deal with a partner and friend just to say you will be condemned and you are guilty.
Oh, just 1 month after a terrorist attack, it would be improper for us to say to a partner or a friend that you're guilty. That's like saying, so a guy comes home, he sees another man fucking his wife, and he kills the guy. Well, are we going to charge him with a crime? Well, no. I mean, come on. He just came home. The guy was banging his wife. I mean, emotions were high, right? I mean, it was the heat of the moment. I mean, he shouldn't have killed the guy. I suppose maybe down the line there'll be some consequences for him killing a guy, but are we really willing to condemn him and call him guilty? I mean, he was angry. He was angry.
It is also reported that he did not know what the word cuckold meant when he answered the ad.
Right, yeah, exactly. So false advertising on top of it.
That's it.
De facto, today, civilians are bombed.
Right.
De facto, these babies, these ladies, these old people are bombed and killed.
Right.
There is no reason for that and no legitimacy. So we do urge Israel to stop. I'm not not a judge.
My God.
I'm a head of
I mean,
state.
what is it with this?
I just remind everybody international law.
You're just here to remind people of international law and call for a ceasefire. I'm not here to be the judge of anything. I'm just saying, they're killing women and children, and that's not a legitimate form of self-defense. But I'm not willing to say, yes, they're guilty of war crimes. I mean, look, he's the only Western leader who's gone this far. But what is it, man? They cannot go all the way. I mean, it is just amazing.
Well, because once you say it, that has legal ramifications, right? Like, you can't say Israel is committing war crimes without advocating for them to convene a tribunal in The Hague.
Right.
You've got to be calling for Netanyahu to get arrested. I mean, but you got to be calling for embassies to be shut down and Israeli diplomats to be expelled. Like, it has very broad implications that they don't have the balls to follow through on. As I was talking about the other day when we were with Jimmy, I don't think this is sustainable because the world population is just not buying this shit anymore. And you can already see that he got dragged from banning pro-Palestine protests to meekly suggesting a ceasefire. Where are they going to be in a month? Because this is not stopping. Israel's not stopping, and the protests are not stopping. No matter how furiously they try to spin the protests as anti-Semitism, that is just not a sustainable narrative. There are too many Jews at the forefront of it, for one thing, and God bless these rabbis who are coming out, because that makes it very difficult for them to spread that propaganda.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. All right, let's take a super chat here. Patrick Donahue, thank you for the €5. Jake, our producer friend, is in the house. Round of applause for Jake, please. He is here fielding super chats, member chats, and Rumble rants. So over on Rumble, if you would like to contribute to the show and help us out here, the Rumble rants and the super chats are super helpful, and we'll read them and we'll respond to them. So if you got them, send them over. Pat Donahue, thanks for the €5. It's nice of Macron to support a ceasefire. How much of Gaza is left even at this stage? They've already planted Israeli flags on the beaches of Gaza. Well, we know the long-term occupation plans. Netanyahu's been fairly forthcoming about that. And what pushback he has gotten from Biden has been very, very weak. He has not paid any mind to it. And that shouldn't really surprise you. I mean, look at what Macron said. Macron calls for a ceasefire, basically caving, at least rhetorically, as you point out, to the demands of the protesters. But even he, after calling for a ceasefire, can't bring himself to admit that they are in violation of international law.
Well, because once he says that, it has teeth.
Exactly.
Like, he can't just go, well, yes, clearly it is a violation of international law, but we can work it out. You can't say that. Once you say that, it has very broad implications in terms of what actions you have to take.
Exactly. Exactly. Salute to the Jew crew. 007 Angelo, thank you very much. Salute to you. JD is a trip. LOL. Yeah, that was a fun show. I thought he picked some really good stuff. I'm glad we got to do that Caitlin Johnston piece. That was really good.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a good one. Few good ones. I was glad we got to chime in on
she's
the.
She's a master, man. She's able to crank out really good work every day. It's
pretty much
amazing.
Every day. Yeah,
it's amazing. Exactly. The quality of her writing. It's paced well. It's always very sharp, clever, incisive.
Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. I love that we got to do that. I also like that we got to do a little bit of the Trump trial stuff because we haven't really been paying attention much to that. So it was cool to get to do something a little different. But yeah, we had a great time. All right, let's move on. We have some more super chats. We will get to everything in due time. Emmanuel Macron obviously caved to protesters' demands in his country, becoming really the first Western leader to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. Back here stateside, we are still doing things like this to our protesters. Columbia University suspends pro-Palestinian and Jewish student clubs. Now, Jewish student clubs is a kind of a weird way to phrase that headline. This is from the USA Today. What they mean is Jewish Voice for Peace. The headline almost makes it sound like they're banning pro-Palestine and pro-Israel clubs, when really, no. Right. They're banning both Palestinian student protest organizations. From the USA Today, an Ivy League
both
school...
Both the kosher and the non-kosher.
Yeah, right, exactly. An Ivy League school has cut off 2 clubs for pro-Palestinian and Jewish students in the latest escalation in the tumult gripping American college campuses amid disagreement over the Israel-Hamas war. Columbia University in New York City, where protests have roiled campus in the past month, temporarily terminated its chapters of Students for Justice in Palestine and Jewish Voice for Peace. The 2 student clubs, which are both anti-Zionist, have shown solidarity in calling for a ceasefire in the war overseas. They will be suspended until the end of the fall semester. Gerald Roseberg, the school's senior executive vice president, announced the move in a statement Friday. Quote, this decision was made after the 2 groups repeatedly violated university policies related to holding campus events, culminated in an unauthorized event Thursday afternoon that proceeded despite warnings and included threatening rhetoric and intimidation, Rosberg said. I didn't know that Riley Gaines event was at Columbia. I thought that was somewhere
I had no
else.
idea. I had no idea.
I didn't know that right here in New York.
So it turns out they care about that stuff when they want to.
Yeah, exactly. He did not elaborate further on how exactly the policies were violated. The groups won't be able to hold events or receive funding, Rosberg said. The suspension will remain in place until the 2 groups can demonstrate a commitment to compliance with university policies, he said in the statement. The Columbia administration's announcement followed a massive student protest and walkout Thursday that included an art installation in front of an administrative building. The protests were described by the clubs as peaceful. Neither of the student groups responded to a request for comment Friday. In a statement, the Council of American Islamic Relations, CAIR for short, condemned Columbia's decision. Once again, we are witnessing the suppression and silencing of pro-Palestinian voices on campus, said Afaf Nasher, the executive director of CAIR's New York chapter. This brave, principled stance seems to bother the administration of Columbia University. We stand in solidarity with them and call on the university to stop this attack on constitutionally protected free speech. So, we've cited the Riley Gaines example, several times on the show as an example.
Evergreen University.
Evergreen University, but look, even the causes we're more sympathetic to that aligned with Columbia's ideology, like the George Floyd protests, where they encouraged students to take to the streets and disrupt and shut shit down. I mean, we were sympathetic to those protests. This just goes to show you what we've said over and over and over again. And in particular, I'll just say what I've said over and over again. You don't learn revolutionary thinking and revolutionary politics on college campuses, because the people behind the college campuses are the people who serve as the gateway for you into the system as a college student, especially at these Ivy League institutions. We've seen Columbia's donors pull funding, Harvard's donors pull funding.
Right.
So, this is just the latest step, probably the most extreme, especially since they are now banning Jewish Voice for Peace. So they can call you disruptive, but they can't call you anti-Semitic. I mean, they're not going to call Jewish Voice for Peace anti-Semitic. They'll say, well, you're being disruptive. Of course, I don't know what level course, I don't know how much money you have to pay to learn this at Columbia University, a very esteemed institution of higher learning. Protest is supposed to be disruptive. That's the fucking point of protest. I don't know, is that a 400 level course or whatever the fuck they call them there? You got to learn that. I don't know what class you have to take to learn that actually the point of protest is to disrupt, is to be a pain in the ass.
Well, you want to talk about Vietnam repeating itself. A lot of the most infamous protests and shutdowns of the Vietnam era were centered on Columbia University. Very prominent members of the Weather Underground were actually students at Columbia before they left to go pursue
My dad
other
was in
avenues
some of those
for
protests.
change.
He wasn't at Columbia. He went to City College at the time, but they're not far. Those campuses are pretty close by.
Well, I know. Out my window is City College.
Yep.
So, yeah, and Columbia right now is actually embroiled, for anyone who doesn't know. I know because I live right by Columbia, and there are posters that activists are putting up. They're embroiled in their own scandal for covering up for a Columbia gynecologist. I believe this is the same case involving Andrew Yang's wife, if I'm not mistaken, if you remember him coming out about that.
I can find that out.
But they are, kicking and screaming to avoid responsibility, as always seems to happen when these universities get caught in these scandals. So these are the paragons of virtue and integrity that have decided that these students are too disruptive for standing up against genocide. It all goes back to the money. And I am finally almost finished with my Frankenstein article, which I hope you're all going to read when it drops.
Join our Substack.
Join our
We're gonna start doing
Substack.
articles now.
It should drop in the next couple days. That's part of the argument I make, that a lot of what we've seen with the wokeness and so-called, it's been a psyop, in my opinion. It's been a lot of very wealthy donors and corporations through donations controlling chairs, grant committees, deflected the disruptive energy of youth into culture war issues that don't cost them any money and don't disrupt their business model. If anything, in a lot of respects, a lot of those ideas are complementary to their business model. They love the idea of people channeling their entire concept of social justice into freedom of choice around identity. That makes for a good consumer, right? You express yourself through your lifestyle choices, through the things you buy, through the neighborhood you live in, the house that you purchase, the car that you drive. They love that. They love that. And then you put a nice "In This House We" bumper sticker on that lawn. I mean, or a lawn sign rather, a bumper sticker on your car. They love that shit. It's all blowing apart here because they never thought about the implications of a colonial war where a genocide is being committed against women and children daily on social media, where the commissioners of the genocide are a client state, which many of your donors are deeply, virulently in support of. Now, what do you do when you have completely detoured all of their activist energy into litigating crimes against black and brown people of the past? You notice they never want to talk about the slave markets in the wake of the assassination of Gaddafi. You notice they never want to talk about that. We have more slaves
today. Those are
today.
Obama slave markets. Those are woke slave markets.
Those are woke slave markets. They're run by a diverse coalition of non-binary women.
That's right.
Those slave markets. We have more slaves today. We have more slaves today than at the height of the slave trade. Why are we? You have all this activist energy against slavery. Why do we only want to talk about slavery that ended with the Civil War and its aftermath? Why do we only want to talk about that? Because they don't want you doing anything that actually disrupts the system. If you start talking about modern day slavery, well, now we got to start looking at supply chains. We got to start looking at some of how your coats and your sneakers get put together and where. You got to start maybe doing things that disrupt diplomatic, geopolitical relationships. In other words, you have to take an action. You can't rescue slaves that have been dead for 150 years.
Right.
They love you sitting there litigating that because nothing can be done about it. Nothing really can be done about it. They want you to have a politics centered on the bourgeois fixation on manners, microaggressions, behaviors. That doesn't fuck with their money. And now they never really thought through what would happen if you rightly told them to be absolutely outraged by these colonial horrors of the past if you tried to get them behind doing it in the present. It's just not going to fly.
Yep. No, absolutely. And I think the other part of it, too, is that they do, as much as, they want to instill a sort of progressive ideology in a lot of these kids, they do want them also to recognize how far we've come, right?
Right.
That's the other thing.
The myth of progress.
The myth of progress, exactly. All right, we'll take some more chats here before we move on. Ryan Spence, not a super chat, but thanks, Jake, for flagging this because this is a good one. Not sure if you guys saw because there's so much to keep track of, but Batya Ungar-Sargon interviewed Glenn Greenwald, and she essentially said international law is a sham and shouldn't be respected. Did she interview him? I know he interviewed her. Maybe they swapped appearances. I watched the first few minutes of her appearance on Greenwald, and then I turned it off. I should watch the rest of it, though, because that is getting a lot of play. You know what, though, Ryan? What I'll tell you is, that's obviously a hideously evil thing to say, but on the facts, she's not wrong. What good is international law if Israel could do what they're doing now without consequence? Why have it?
Well, you know what's funny? People who are Zionist also tend to be libs. So when you confront them with international law, all of a sudden they turn into Glenn Beck. Well, the UN's not right about everything.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's the most useless building in the world.
All of a sudden, they're right wingers.
Russell's a tour guide. I don't know how often you've given tours near the UN, but I used to give driving tours in the city. We used to go up into Tudor City, and where you could see the UN from there.
Yeah, I've done that. Yeah.
And I've gotten a lot of conservatives from the heartland be like, "That's the most worthless building in the world, right there." All of a sudden, the libs turn into them, right?
Yep, exactly. All of a sudden, yeah. In this context,
yeah, exactly. All right. Long story short, thanks for the $2. Ironically, in France, you can use that as a defense. Use what as a defense? Something we said. I take your point, though. Thanks. Long story short. Am I echoing? No.
I
thought I heard myself echo.
I don't think so.
Okay, 007. I had a little incident before the show tonight. I was out walking my dog because I like to walk her so that she's walked and taken care of before we start the show. And this other dog, my neighbor's dog, gets off the leash and charges at my dog and bites her on the foot. She cut my dog's foot up. And I had to grab the leash of the neighbor's dog and give her the leash back. And the neighbor, she didn't say anything. Not, "Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, is your dog okay?" Nothing. Just takes the leash and walks away. Says nothing. What kind of a lowlife does that? Well, look, it's an accident. It happens, all right? Your dog got off the leash. But you at least show concern for the other dog, no? Don't just take it and walk away like nothing happened. Pissed me off. Really pissed me off. If I didn't have a show to do, I would have gone off on it. But I couldn't risk having the police come if she got scared and said, "You're threatening me." Even I wouldn't threaten her. But you never know how somebody's going to react.
Yeah,
I didn't have time to be answering questions from a cop for a half hour because we had to be on. Anyway, just want to get that off my chest.
It's the kind of person that would trap a sheep on a beach.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. Could you imagine? Your dog gets off the leash, attacks another dog, and you don't show any concern for the other dog? No, "Oh, I'm sorry. Are they all right?" Nothing.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah.
She's probably for the IDF. UN
She's
Criminal
probably
Court.
seen the show. She knows who you are.
Yeah.
That was on purpose.
Maybe it was on purpose. The UN Criminal Court has a serious case of blue balls. Yeah, indeed. We got a couple of Rumble rants.
I want to this is way back now, but I want to answer this in the chat because as a tour guide, I can answer this. Somebody said Columbia was started with J.P. Morgan money. Now, they might have gotten J.P. Morgan money later, but Columbia actually started as the King's College, which it literally was in the old colony.
Yes.
It was attached to Trinity Church, which back then was Church of England. After the Revolution, it was very dangerous to be associated with the monarchy. They were seriously talking about seizing all the land from the Church of England. So Trinity became Episcopal, and the King's College became Columbia.
Right. Yep. I remember talking about that from my days in the tour guide world. Shard 2419, thanks for the $5. 10K dead, including children. 10,000 in total, almost 5,000 children now. In fact, probably over 5,000 children now. And Macron says maybe we should have a ceasefire. No war crimes, though. Yep. Yes. That is how it goes. All right. Let's do...
Well, and Netanyahu knows that he can just tell them to go fuck themselves, because what are they going to do? We're your base in the Middle East, right? We're your bulwark. We're the tip of the spear, as Nikki Haley said, protecting that oil that, that pesky oil that got under the ground of other countries.
Yeah, exactly. Ryan, she came on system update. Okay, so it's the same piece that you're talking about. Perfect. Thank you. All right, let's move on to segment number 3 of the evening. So, folks, this is an exciting opportunity here. We have some exclusive footage from the new film Killers of the Flower Moon that we're going to show for you. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. This is footage of Senator Elizabeth Warren at dinner getting interrupted.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I made that mistake too.
I confused it. I couldn't tell the difference. I get them mixed up all the time. So here's Senator Elizabeth Warren being confronted by a ceasefire protester. Let's get this from the sync because the subtitles move a little fast here. I'm a refugee from Gaza and I'm a constituent of yours.
Some water to get started. Of course, we have tap water. We also have butter.
68 members family killed. Just want to know how many more have to die before we call for a ceasefire.
How many more of my family to die for the call for a ceasefire? I don't know, how much more do I have to say to call for a ceasefire? People are in your office every day asking to call for a ceasefire. Family, you are blood on your hands! Shame!
Hell yeah.
Yep, that's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
Red doesn't live! Red doesn't live! Red doesn't live!
There you go. That's one. We got a couple more protest actions to show you. But if you notice, man, the Jose Vega model catching on a little bit. People are starting to do
That is what I think.
And everybody's staying peaceful and lawful,
That's how to do
it. That's how to do it.
With it, these people are your elected officials. They are not due any deference. They are not entitled to peace. They are not entitled to be given their space or their privacy. You want that? Retire, resign. Nobody made you run for office. It's very hard to get elected to political office. You wanted it that bad. That's what comes with it. If you don't want to deal with it, there are plenty of people who'd love to take your place. That's what comes with it. You don't owe them anything. Disrupt them whenever you see them. They are not entitled to a minute's peace.
No. And nobody who's not calling for a ceasefire is entitled to a modicum of respect either. You don't have to be polite.
Exactly.
It's not against the law to be rude. Don't be unlawful. Don't be violent, obviously.
Right.
But
Within
don't
the
be
bounds
afraid to
of
be
the
rude.
law.
Oh, man, I see one of these guys walking down. I can't. I mean, these guys are nice compared to what I've been saying.
Do you know how frustrating it is? Every time I've seen Anderson Cooper on the street, I've been leading a tour.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Motherfucker, God damn it.
All right, here we go. This next guy needs no introduction.
Do you have an answer? With respect, I'm curious what has stopped you so far with over 10,000 people killed so far.
Thank you.
What did he say?
Just gonna ignore my question.
What did he say? What was that?
What was that?
Sure. I think he said ceasefire now.
Yeah, that sounded like ceasefire to me. A second major Western politician to call for a ceasefire, John Fetterman of the great state of Pennsylvania. She stuck on him for a while. You're going to ignore my question?
Right before Veterans Day.
Thank
You
you.
don't have an answer for why you won't call for a ceasefire in one of the most serious civilian massacres of our lifetimes? As a senator?
I don't know. I don't know.
You should be protesting Hamas.
I think you should be protesting Hamas.
Why don't you do that and be protesting until we get the hostages back?
Yeah.
That's my opinion, and I respect your opinion.
Yeah.
So let's just call it that thing.
Right, except for I deployed to the war in Afghanistan where we said the same logic about the Taliban. And my government isn't funding Hamas, but my government
She doesn't have to be
is
staff.
funding the bombs that are killing
She's not doing anything. Are you staff?
I know, like I said,
Well, I'm an American citizen, so I'm protesting what my government is doing, and you...
What?
That cop thought like he should do something, but he can't really. I mean, you have a right to go out. She's not assaulting him. She's not touching him.
No, she's asking him questions. And this is why it's good to have someone bring a camera, because
Yes,
now the cop knows that they can't just drag you out of there if they're on camera.
Exactly. Always have a camera when things like this are happening. If you saw in the cowbell video, the woman with the cropped hair who walks in, she was trying to build a case for harassment. You're in my
Right,
space.
that Russell was getting in her
But I
space.
had her on camera approaching me.
Right.
If you don't have her on camera, oh, this guy, he's harassing me.
Yeah, he just came up to us and wouldn't
Right.
leave us alone no matter what. And, exactly. So she keeps going.
You make decisions for my government.
very good then.
And you don't care that 10,000 people have been killed, that 4,000 children have been killed?
Yeah.
That's okay with you?
Okay.
Okay, well, I guess we have our answer.
I mean, Pennsylvania, I'm sorry. Our friend, I think Jake is from Pennsylvania, our producer. He's from near East Palestine, Ohio. I forget which side of the state line you're on. Pennsylvania. It came down to between that guy and Dr. Oz. Those are the two people you choose to have
I mean, but
represent you in your state.
what can we say? We're gonna have a fucking another election between Trump and Biden if the people get their way.
This guy can't talk. I mean, this guy can't.
No, he's
do the
clear.
job.
He's clearly
Okay.
brain damaged.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. No, clearly. I mean, you saw that when the other protester got pushed out, confronted him, and he didn't even answer. He didn't even say anything.
No.
You could see that like he wasn't really able to process what was going on.
Yeah. Why don't you go protest Hamas? Okay. With 4,000 dead children? Okay.
Well, and she said, my government isn't funding Hamas.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right? The
You
Israeli
protest your
government is.
Yeah.
The Israeli government funds
The
Hamas.
Israeli government funded Hamas. Right, exactly. Last but not least, we won't get to see Joe Biden here, but this was a crowd that gathered outside of Joe Biden's Delaware home. Very, very big crowd of protesters marching to his house.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
See, we have a good amount of speakers here today.
So, we've said it before, but we really feel a need to highlight these protest actions as often as possible because, Russell, you said you have not seen anything like this in a very long time. We haven't seen any anti-war action like this in a very long time. And I have a feeling this is only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Whereas the Iraq War protests were large, but they didn't last that long. They didn't go on for months and months.
There hasn't been anything. Yeah, there hasn't been anything like this since Vietnam.
Yeah.
The Iraq War protests, most people were for the Iraq War. It wasn't comparable. There was a sizable amount of dissent.
That's very
true. But it
true.
wasn't like this, where there's this total breakdown between the establishment furiously trying to make this a conversation about anti-Semitism, and the great mass of people just absolutely refusing to have it. You saw this from the beginning, and you're seeing, as I thought was going to happen, as the atrocities become harder and harder to argue against. Even Zionists, I know, man, most of them have shut the fuck up. Like, they were not coming out as much as you would have expected from the beginning, and now only the most hardcore are still saying anything publicly, from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, Jake says in the private chat, he says, I'm from Western PA. Yeah, go fuck yourself. I've angered our producer. But no, I mean, it's amazing to see. We're seeing it everywhere. We're seeing people all across the country just really take action.
Exactly, Tusker.
Yep, closer to Vietnam, indeed. Because that's a good point that you made, and I didn't think of that, but that's actually a very, very relevant point, that Iraq, you had a lot of dissents, but it was concentrated in areas that were mostly blue areas because most of the people who were against that war happened to be Democrats, and even then, most Democrats were for it. 70% of the American people supported the Iraq war when it started, whereas now it's the complete opposite. 66% of voters across the board support a ceasefire. So I think part of the reason why you're seeing more protests that are growing at larger paces and are seemingly set to sustain themselves over a longer period of time is because the ceasefire movement just represents a greater share, far greater share, really double the share of the American public that the anti-Iraq sentiment enjoyed.
Right. You had some big protests, but it was not a general opinion.
Right.
Most people were frighteningly on board with it. And willing to bow their heads to the Bush administration. You had a few voices of dissent here and there, but not many.
Yep, indeed. N Mays 227, working an actual literal 21-hour shift today. Wow.
Jesus Christ, what do you do, man?
Yeah,
I'm
waiting on my Jew
now.
dissidents has kept me going. Thank you. Well, thank you I'm glad we are the light at the end of the tunnel. So I guess you're still at work? Still plugging away, but you got us on while you're working. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, what do you do? 21-hour shift. That's a big one. Folks, you can support our show by going to patreon.com/do dissidents. We've had a lot of new Patreon members sign up this week. It really helps keep the show going. It helps censor-proof the operation. You guys are the backbone of the show. Perks of becoming a member at Patreon, Substack, or Locals. Same perks across the board. You get your name up in lights here on the show credits. You get call-in access to our Sunday Q&As. Our Sunday Q&A obviously coming up after the show this evening, exclusively on Rumble. You also get access to 2 patron-exclusive live streams per month. Those are over on Rumble as well. So you get 2 full shows extra that are exclusively for members in exchange for helping keep this project going. Our Patreon members and our paid Substack subscribers and now our Locals members are the backbone of the show. So you can go to patreon.com/do dissidents, dodissidents.substack.com. You can also sign up on Locals. If you're watching on Rumble now, we have almost 600 people in the Rumble chat right now, which is amazing. You could sign up on Locals right underneath the screen. Locals and Rumble are integrated very nicely, so you can make that happen right now. Also, if we get to 500 members, if and when we get to 500 members, we are going to add a 4th weekly stream. That'll be an uncensored stream on Rumble. And Wereskill says, congratulations on another great JD appearance. Thank you, Wereskill. Please, folks, give these Jews money so we can get a 4th stream. This blue-collar MF needs peace of mind. So I have a little update on that because we had a lot of you guys sign up and become members over the past week or so. Now, we need to get to 500 members in order to be able to afford to do the 4th stream because we have to do that during the daytime. So that's another day off that we have to take from our schlep jobs. So we need 500 members to make that happen. But the good news is we are now over 400. We are at 403 paid members across Locals, Patreon, and Substack. So 97 more, and we will add that 4th stream. So we got about 1,600 of you guys watching now.
And that's all going to be
right now, can't you?
That's going to be the hunting show. It's going to be about how to clean a deer.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Survival tips. End of the world survival tips.
Yeah, you know. How to build a windbreak.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, we are adding a 4th show when we hit 500 members, and we are closing in. When we started this little drive here, we were just under 300, and now we are just over 400. So we are halfway towards that journey from 300 to 500. So you can help get us there today. Patreon.com/do dissidents. We also have a Substack, dodissidents.substack.com, and Locals. Perks are the same across all of those platforms. So if you can make that happen, you can help us get a 4th show. And like we've said in the past, you know, a lot of you guys hit us up with a few different super chats per show. If you hit us up with 3 super chats per show, hit us up with 2 super chats per show and put the difference in the Patreon kitty. This way you help sustain us, you help keep us censor-proof, and you help the entire dissident community build towards a fourth show. So we'll see you a fourth time a week. So that's how all that happens. Master Yoda, thanks for the $1. Kamala Harris's shallow anti-Islamophobia sales pitch is probably making Israeli forces tired. Their pauses are just rest breaks between massacres. FYI, Rumble rants are cheaper than Super Chats. Yeah, you get more characters per dollar over on Rumble. That's for sure. That's for sure. Chow, Kathy, thanks for the $5 Rumble rant. Is there a reason that both you and Jimmy didn't put out the clip of the UAW Biden protest segment? We did. We covered that last time.
Yeah, we did. We
covered it at the last show. I didn't put out the clip yet, if that's what you mean. I'm a little behind on clips because I usually do clips after the Friday show. I edit the clips together and drop them over the weekend. But a couple hours after the Friday show, we got the call from Jimmy that we were hosting, and we had to prep because we had a bunch of segments that we had to review.
Hey, can you guys do Carson?
Yeah, exactly. Sure. So I'm a little behind on the clips, but we will get that out there for sure. We will get all the clips out. Tomorrow and Tuesday, we have no shows, so we'll be able to pump all of those out. So don't worry. It will come out. But thank you for the Rumble rant. Thank you, Wordskill, for the Super Chat. 007 Angelo. In the U.S., our slave market is called the working class. Right. Yeah, exactly. 3,000-mile long slave market. Indeed. Good one. Samuel Bruce. I don't love RBN and DD bleeding into one another. Why not? Oh, yeah, we got a post-duopoly show Tuesday, I think. I think we're going on Tuesday afternoon, post-duopoly.
Yeah, man. I mean, we got solidarity, and that's not going to change. So
we got
don't
solidarity.
know what to tell you about that.
That's right. All righty. Let's move on, shall we? We got more super chats that we will get to in a little while. Okay. This is a fun segment. Finally, a superhero segment that I won't be bored through. Let's go to this article here. Russell, take this away. This is an article in Newsweek.
A Disney story I can justify.
A Disney story that I won't get anxious sitting through.
Yeah. And that is not easy, man. Do you know how many of these dork stories I would bring in? But I have to basically run through my head how Keaton's going to react. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, that means, yeah, just don't even pitch that. I mean, you know, he would do it, but why make him suffer?
Right. Exactly.
You know, that's partnership right there.
I agree.
But this
is
one
a good one. This is a good one. I mean, this
is a good one.
Yeah.
I knew it was a good one because Keaton said right away, "Oh yeah, we'll do that." There was a when he doesn't want to do it, he just says, "Okay."
Okay, yeah.
That's it. All right, so Captain America
Let's hope
4.
for some more terrible news to push it out of the
the
show.
Well, and usually we'll find it. That's the tragic part. Yeah. Captain America 4 delay raises questions about movies' Israeli superhero. Now, look, I'm a dork. I always say on the like comic book geek family tree, I'm like a branch, right? But I'm not quite in the main. So I didn't even know about this. Like, I'm not tuned in enough to this to have known
Here she is.
In their wisdom, they decided to put a fucking Israeli superhero in a movie that already has challenges, in my opinion. All right, so this character is Sabra. I remember the character. I was a big Hulk fan at the time that she first appeared. So I probably read the issue she was in, that she first appeared in. So
I like her sidekicks, Tahini and Baba Ganoush. They really make the character.
Well, those characters are a little more complex.
Yeah.
Right? Because Baba Ganoush was actually working for the other side, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he had like Arabic roots.
Yeah, he was a mole.
He was a mole. So Disney announced on Thursday that several of its projects are being delayed, reportedly due to the recently ended actor strike. That's not why. And some fans believe this might mean one superhero may not make the cut. Among the delayed projects is Captain America Brave New World. Originally titled, I mean, they're just really trying to pack asses in there. Captain America New World.
Brave New World.
It's like they just brainstormed, okay, so what's really going to get Tucker Carlson going? You know,
Right.
what's really going to get Paul Joseph Watson to feature this movie in like 5 different segments. The 4th film in the franchise is also the first to feature Anthony Mackie as the titular superhero, replacing Chris Evans. A move the people were clamoring for, I assure you, to switch out Captain America with a non-powered Captain America. The movie was supposed to hit theaters on July 26, 2024, but has now been pushed back to February 14th, 2025. Although fellow Marvel movies Deadpool 3 and Thunderbolts have also been rescheduled, rumors that Brave New World is undergoing sizable reshoots due to negative test screenings have begun to circle online. Imagine that. A non-Captain America Captain America paired with a Mossad agent performed poorly in test screenings.
We're hoping
I
that
would
by February 2025, the country represented by one of the main protagonists stops massacring 1,000 children per week.
because that is really unless they make it a villain, but you know, our shareholders will crucify us.
Exactly.
Now some fans are wondering if Disney still plans to include the Israeli superhero Sabra to be played and our arch nemesis Tribe to be played by Israeli actress Shira Haas in the film, and whether the reshoots are to remove the character due to the recent conflict between Israel and Hamas. I'm going to answer that in one word: yes. First appearing in the Incredible Hulk comic book series in 1980, Sabra is a mutant with super strength and speed who works for Mossad, the real-life Israeli Secret Service agency.
Oh my God.
You can't make this shit up.
Jesus Christ.
Her real name is Ruth Bat Saraf, while her superhero title translates to a person born in Israel whose products are subject to boycott. Early iterations of Sabra, one of the lesser-known Marvel characters, you could say that again, show her wearing a blue and white costume with a Star of David on the chest. The character has previously been criticized for stereotyping Israeli people, while her narrative has been accused of oversimplifying the conflict between Israelis and Palestinians. Sabra also regularly fought comic characters that portrayed offensive Arabic stereotypes, such as Arabian Knight, who controlled a magic carpet, wore a turban, and brandished a scimitar.
Could you imagine if they shot the movie and with that character? I mean,
They
we
should
don't know.
they should bring in Arabian
Jesus
Knight.
Christ.
Okay.
So here's the original comic book that the character first appeared in. It was an Incredible Hulk strip. See, back what they used to do in the old comic books is when they would put a new character out, they would very often put a new character in a comic book with an already established character,
Exactly.
so they didn't have to go out on a limb with an all-new character. And then
Right.
if people liked it, they would give them their own franchises.
Often.
Right.
And this was also very often, and probably still, I don't know. They like to do this. They like to create a superhero that was like the national superhero of a country. Like there's a British superhero in the Marvel universe. I can't remember the name of it. It was like tied to the Arthurian legend or something. You had something there, Keaton? I could see
No.
you're stifling a laugh there.
I just read something in the chat. I'm sorry.
All right. So, yeah, but as I dug in for this, like I said, I remember the character, and I probably read this issue when I was 10 when it came out. But some panels from it have surfaced, and it was more nuanced than you would expect. Do you have that on the next slide?
Yes, indeed.
So the in fighting the Hulk, a Palestinian boy is killed in their fight. And this is not shown here, but Hulk, with his usual geopolitical perspective, says something to the effect of, "Boy killed because no agree to share land. Boy then not die," basically, and then he jumps away. For an instant, Sabra prepares to give chase. She is, after all, an Israeli super agent, a soldier, a weapon of war. But she is also a woman, a real woman. capable of feeling, capable of caring. I mean, I've known some women. All right. It has taken the Hulk to make her see this dead Arab boy as a human being. Well, see, Keaton, we have our solution. We need to send the Hulk to Gaza.
Yeah, the Hulk, yeah.
It has taken, or maybe we can send Mark Ruffalo. He's not working. It has taken a monster to awaken her own sense of humanity. So I got to say, because I've often mentioned that back when I was a child, there was absolutely no diversity of opinion on Israel allowed. There was no subtlety allowed. So I was a little surprised when I dug that up. I thought it was going to be a horrific pro-Zionist thing, but it actually had a little more nuance than you would have expected for the era. But you just have to wonder, what the fuck was Marvel thinking even before this happened, putting that character in this movie? It's already a movie. This is what really I get off these projects. They're just constantly trying to give audiences something that nobody asked for, that nobody wanted. Nobody wants a Captain America that's not Captain America. Captain America is that character, Steve Rogers from World War II. Nobody wants somebody else dressed as Captain America playing Captain America who's not actually that character with that backstory. Like, who's asking for that? Who wanted that? And then you're going to pair the character with a fucking Mossad agent? Like, where do they come up with these ideas? What, like, who sat in a brainstorming meeting? Who greenlit that? Like, who sat there and said, "Yeah, no, that sounds like a great idea. We'll call it New World Order."
Brave New World. Same.
No, originally it was New World Order.
New World Order.
It was originally New World Order. We're gonna call it, and then they changed it because somebody there realized that was a bad idea. They wanted to call a fucking Captain America film with a race swapped. It's not even race swapped. It's a completely different character. But clearly, one of the reasons they wanted to go that way was to have a black Captain America. So you're already going out on a limb by getting rid of this character that has all this decades of built-up mythology and affection around him, and replacing him with a new, diverse, completely separate character.
What do you mean by different character?
Well, because Anthony Mackie has taken up the mantle of Captain America, but he's not the classic Captain America. Steve Rogers is I guess dead at this point because he went back. It was a whole thing. Believe me, you don't want to go down this rabbit hole. But this is not Captain America. It's not like Little Mermaid where it's still Ariel. This is not like a black Steve Rogers. This is a completely different character. He had been the Falcon, and now he has become Captain America. I mean, you asked.
I know, yeah.
You asked. I mean, I could have explained it, but, the geeks in our audience know. So you're already going out on a limb. So you're going to pair this new, not Captain America with a Mossad agent and call the movie Captain America: The New World Order. Like, what the fuck? Who thought that was a good idea? So now, of course, this war is broken out. Their stock is tanking. Their box office is tanking. The Marvels looks like it's going to be the worst opening this weekend of an MCU movie ever. And these are the projects they have coming up. So there's absolutely no way that they delayed this like that because of the actor strike. They're probably reshooting half of this fucking movie because supposedly 99% of the movie was done. Because if they were going to open it in July, the movie would be mostly in the can. You're not still shooting at that point.
Well, that's the thing. And the other thing is, if this is going to come out in July, don't forget, by July...
It was.
Right, but it was. By July, everybody is going to be on the same page about what a horrific atrocity we allowed to unfold here. Mark my words. Because, look, we were out in front on Ukraine 2 years ago. Right, we were the Putin people. Ooh, what do you mean we shouldn't fund Ukraine? Well, we said that from day one. Of course, you shouldn't fund Ukraine. Now, most Americans think we shouldn't be funding Ukraine. So, by this time, by what, July of next year, everybody's going to be on board, knowing what a horrific thing we allowed to unfold here, and everybody who supported it is going to have a lot to answer for. And so, summertime next year is not going to be a good time to release a movie with a Mossad agent superhero character. I can tell you that. It's already not. But in
I was going to say you could open it. Worse. You could open it this weekend, and right. it was net. This one even before this, it was a bad idea. That's why I'm amazed. All right, so I'm going to go. I already made a Disney prediction. I think we're almost at the end of the year. I will have been proven right when we go back and review our predictions about what I said would happen with Disney this year. My next prediction, they're going to cancel most of these movies. Most of these movies are never going to get released. I would give it at least a 50-50 chance that this movie never actually goes into theaters, that they just cut their losses and say, fuck it. They're losing too much money. In the end, the ESG score cannot make up for losing hundreds of millions of dollars every time they release a movie, which is what it's coming down to at this point. Everything they release is losing them hundreds of millions of dollars. And this, I mean, come on, man. They'll be lucky to make $3 off this one.
All right, let's go on. Let's take some more Rumble rants and super chats as we move here. Caruther Sebastian, are you familiar with this Hebrew language Telegram account? I know that you had a link there. It has 100,000 followers, and it is wholly devoted to IDF soldiers laughing, at splattered Gazans. Wow. Yeah, that's horrible, obviously, but not surprising. Thank you for that generous donation. Appreciate that. Dan Richmond, if you just add the Dobular 2024 pinup calendar to the offerings, you'd get your 500 members. Yeah. We'd have to invest a lot in photography to make that happen, though.
Yeah, really, you'd have to. You could CGI me in.
You're right. We would need CGI for that, so we blow the budget out all at once. Pickle the Pirate, thanks for the $5. Went to grad school in Georgia, and the trash at the park downtown, they'd watch their dogs rip into each other and just say, "No, stop, don't. Bad dog owners suck." This woman didn't even say that. She didn't say anything. She tried to catch the
crazy.
dog. She tried to get the dog, but she couldn't get the dog because she's, too slow. So I had to wrangle the other dog's leash while holding my dog. I had to wrangle the other dog's leash and give the leash back to her. Yeah, horrible. But thank you for the donation. Abiding, thanks for the 99 cents. Appreciate that. Franklin Warsham, thanks for the $4.99. Kind of shows the political savvy of Putin that it doesn't appear that he targeted civilians. Well, that's what, Max Blumenthal said in his latest run-in with the State Department, that fewer Ukrainian civilians have died since the Russian invasion there than Palestinian civilians. And, I would still like to verify that, but obviously Max is a good source of information on this. But, look, I mean, again, we have a segment at the end of the show that, will make this point very, very clear. But I don't want to hear anybody condemning any other country for anything as long as we are greenlighting and financing what's going on now. Isabel Jimenez, I voted Fetterman. I'm ashamed. That's all right. I mean, look. Well, actually, I mean, is it all right? Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I mean, whatever. At the time, those were your options. I just don't know how those became the options. Right? Like, how the hell did those two? Like, how is it that the two parties nominate the worst people? It's like these two parties just like nominate the most awful people. And look, Fetterman had the stroke. After he won the nomination, or was it after he won the nomination, or like the day before? I think he had it like a few days before, but he was so far ahead that it didn't matter. But yeah, just amazing. And look, the Republicans, they put up Dr. Oz, the only guy who could lose to that guy. And Mays 227. I work for an airline. Oh, okay. So you're doing, okay. All right. I hope you're not a pilot. It's not legal to have a pilot fly 21 hours in a row. You must work somewhere
probably
on the ground.
Or maybe an attendant.
Maybe an attendant.
Because look, I mean, when you do those flights to like Australia from the United States, man, that's an over 20-hour flight.
Yeah, put the show on the TV in the plane so everybody could watch. Everybody could watch. Shows up at everybody's chair backs. You can make that happen, right?
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I've never really thought about it, but obviously they must do those whole flights. Right?
Yeah,
they don't change out the crew, do they?
I don't think so. I like that sheep story. Thanks, Dave Dillery. You did, because I heard Israel wanted to bomb that sheep just because it was all alone and helpless and trapped. But the group said, nah, fuck that. Good on them. Yes, there you go. We could tie that in.
All right. I'm gonna answer a non-super chat. All right. So Dan, I know that the Falcon had a run in the comic books. I can't speak to that. I haven't seen that, but I have seen the MCU, and I sat through the entire Disney Plus series. That run might have been good, but the writers that they have over at Marvel are not. It's not that you couldn't make that good, but these writers cannot make that good because everything they do lacks subtlety. It lacks subtext. I will probably do. I haven't done one of these in a while. Russ's rants, they're unscripted. I will probably do one about Picard.
Yeah, and I don't have to show up for them.
You know, I mean, honestly, that is part of why.
He can do them on his own time. That's the great thing about them.
Because Keaton cannot do Picard. Like, he doesn't. Yeah. When I said Picard, I don't think he realized it was a Star Trek show, actually.
No, I thought it was an art exhibit at the Met.
Yeah, it was like, was that post-impressionist Picard?
Is that MoMA or the Whitney?
Yeah, but I will probably do a rant about Picard because Picard is a good example of how you can take these legacy characters, have diversity, and write a good script. It's just it's not that I don't think you could do that. I know they did that in the comic, but these writers can't because they're going to do what they did on the TV show where it's the most two-dimensional woke lecture that you can imagine. They're not going to do anything interesting or incisive with it.
All right. And Maze 227, thanks for the $5. I get free tickets, though. Maybe could help you guys cover the primaries. Oh, airline tickets. Oh, yeah. Hey, that's a good idea. I dig that. Yeah, shoot us an email.
Shit.
That could be something. Yeah, killer.
Damn, yo.
Definitely.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah, dudissidents@gmail.com. Let's work something out. Let's make a deal. Virgil Ellis Wade. Other ideas, title ideas included Captain America InfoWars. Yeah. And Captain America Project Paperclip. Like Spider-Man Bohemian Grove. You know, that would be a good one, too. That's funny. Good one, Virgil. Thank you.
Exactly. Shut up, Keaton. Everyone else will know what we're talking about. You've got to do better, Senator. Yeah, exactly. That's what that movie's going to be.
All right, let's keep going. We got 4 more segments to go, and then we got a Q&A. So we have a lot of content left. We have a very, very full show tonight. We were going to trim it down, but like, you know what? It's Sunday. We're not on for another 2 days, so we may as well
Put a chicken and make her gay.
May as well get to everything we need. So, folks, I was surprised to know, I saw a couple of you guys in the chat wondering who Douglas Murray is. Douglas Murray, British public intellectual, author, creator of the new advocacy group Queers for Hitler. I don't know if you knew that, but that's Douglas Murray's new advocacy group that he's founding. Here he is on the Piers Morgan
He's already got 82 members.
Yeah, he's already got 82 members. Here he is on the Piers Morgan Show reporting from the Israel-Gaza border. I didn't have this on my bingo card this year, that we would be whitewashing Hitler in order to excuse a genocide at Israel's hand. But Douglas Murray gets into this a little bit. Here's a quite astounding piece of video from the Piers Morgan Show.
I want to make a very, very... As for the moral criticality, I want to make a very, very important point, if I can say so, on this, which is, you know, people quite often abuse history, and they say things all the time about the only thing anyone from history knows is about the Nazis. Here's something I can tell you with absolute certainty, Piers, having not just seen some of the results of what Hamas did on the ground here in Israel a few weeks ago, but having watched the videos of the unedited footage, which I was one of the journalists was sadly allowed to see the other day. I can tell you one thing: the comparison between Hamas and the Nazis is insufficient. And sorry, there's an incoming.
Hold.
Yeah, they shot this on a badminton court.
Get safe, Douglas.
All right, let's go to a card.
Okay. Anyhow, we're okay.
Are you okay?
Let's just. Yeah. It's fine. Sorry, it was a rocket coming. It looked like it was just going to land on us here.
Which way was that rocket coming from? Was it coming from Gaza or from Israel?
Yes, seem to be coming from Gaza.
So it was the Iron Dome. See, AOC saved your ass, you prick.
It's okay, it's been happening all day. Yeah. Let me just finish this point, if I may.
Before we go on, Douglas, Atman, how does that make you? How does that make you feel? What just happened there?
Don't change your subject. Come on, let's go. Let's get to the.
A little used to it. I was in
let's get
Ukraine
to his $1 million point about how Adolf Hitler was empathetic compared to the people of Gaza.
He's breaking his flow.
Breaking my flow. Breaking my flow.
And Odessa and Mykolaiv, and when the Russians were shelling it, so I'm a little used to it. But just if I can just finish this point, sorry, there's a lot of banging going on, but anyway, we'll keep going.
Well, look, if you need to stop, Douglas, we understand.
No, don't worry. If we need to stop, I'll run to the shelter. I assure you.
Come on, Piers. Be a pro. Come on. Slowing the show down. Let him make his point already. All this crosstalk, all this filibustering. Maybe he's trying to. Maybe he got the sense. I wonder, is this guy about to defend Hitler? Maybe I should just make an excuse to get him off the air.
Is he about to humanize the Nazis?
Yeah. Is he about to defend Adolf Hitler? Because maybe that rocket would be a good excuse to say, hey, maybe we should cut this short before you put me in a very awkward spot of having to debate you on the merits of the Third Reich. But let's see. Here he goes.
The thing that struck me, Piers, about seeing the 7th of October footage was that even the Nazis were actually ashamed of what they did. SS battalion.
That's a hell of a way to start a sentence. Even the Nazis,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hell of a beginning. Hell of an opening. Even the Nazis were ashamed of what they did.
Who spent their days shooting Jews in the back of the head. Actually ashamed of what they did. SS battalions who spent their days shooting Jews in the back of the head and pushing them into trenches had to get very, very drunk in the evening to forget what they had done.
It was schnapps as far as the eye could see.
Famously had to sort of get around the problem of soldier morale because the soldiers knew this wasn't exactly what their lives were meant to look like either. I tell you one very big difference. If you look at the footage, the raw footage, and I really hope people don't on a wider scale have to view what I viewed the other day, if they see it, they will see something that is at least as barbaric as what the Nazis did. But here's the difference. They did it with glee. They were deeply proud.
Unlike the Nazis. Unlike the Nazis.
Yeah, so this is the problem, and this keeps coming up again and again. It's going to come up in the Dana Bash story we're going to cover later. It came up in the Bill Ackman story. This is really the core conceptual battle and framing battle. People like Douglas Murray and Bill Ackman are furiously trying to present the Palestinians in the Nazi role and the Israelis in the victim role, when it is pretty obvious to any sane observer that it's quite the opposite. That's why these things make absolutely no sense. Really, when you think about who would have to get drunk to get over the horrors they had committed that day, do you think the average person feels that would be the Palestinians in this situation? Or the members of the IDF who may be horrified at the acts that they're committing?
Yeah. I mean, let's just look numbers. Let's just look at numbers. And once again, I mourn the death of everybody. I don't want people to die. I've said before, I think all violence is tragic. All war is obscene, right? But in Israel, you had 1,400 casualties. Now it's more than 7 times that on the Palestinian side. 7 times that, right. Almost half of whom are children. 4,500 children. More children now. That was at the last measure. More children now have died in a month of fighting in Gaza than U.S. soldiers died in the entire Iraq war. Think of that statistic. More dead children in Gaza in 1 month than the amount of soldiers, combatants, that the United States lost over the entire course of the Iraq war.
Well, and also, and this is something we're gonna try to take a deep dive into on Wednesday. This is a real mask-off moment for people like Douglas Murray, who, if you've watched the show for a while, I have his book. I've read it. And I said about his last book, The War on the West, I said I agree with some of his premises. I think he goes too far with some things, but the basic premise that the idea that the West is uniquely prone to evil just defies any basic knowledge of history. But you see, for me, what drives me crazy is illogic and hypocrisy. And it doesn't matter who it's coming from, and it doesn't matter what point of view it's presenting. It is not, for me, honestly, about feeling that Western culture is superior or hating other people's cultures or wanting to dominate other people's cultures. It is honestly, if you tell me 2 + 2 = 5, I'm always going to snap. I'm always going to argue with you about that. For people like Douglas Murray and Bill Maher, and some other people in this space, Barry Weiss, although Barry Weiss, her mask was off a long time ago. But for a lot of these people who have kind of presented it as if their arguments are rooted in the irrationality of holding up the West for unique scorn and the unique retribution of removing all of its cultural ideas and products because they're so foul, that I'm on board with that argument. But they always couch that in, not having anything against these other cultures. All right? They always went out of their way. No, it's not that I'm again. I just, particularly people like Murray who make a smarter argument than someone like Maher.
Yeah, they get very defensive about it. Oh, no.
No, it's not that. It's not that. It's just, and that's the part I would agree with. Like, if you're going to say, slavery was uniquely Western, that's historically illiterate. That's absolutely ridiculous. But this is a mask-off moment. It shows that people like Murray have always been truly not defending their own culture, but they're true Western chauvinists with a colonizing mentality. And in the end, every accusation that's been made about somebody like Murray, that they just don't want to live in a world with more equality. They don't want to live in a world where the West can't simply dictate its terms and its ideas to everybody else and hide behind the idea of its superior values. It's all been a lie. I mean, they just want it to be the Victorian era, and they want to be able to just go and impose their will on the brown people of the world. And he's showing that quite clearly here with the side he's taken, not just here, but in Ukraine too. Obviously not the brown issue, but he seems very comfortable with Nazis, Douglas Murray, especially for a gay guy, because
people are saying.
I don't know if he's gotten the memo, but Nazis traditionally are not big fans of his people.
No, and he would be the first to point out, the hypocrisy, the ludicrous queers for Palestine. Well, yeah, I mean, look, what do you think? How do you think the Nazis would treat you? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and this absolutely is making apologies for the Nazis. And you talk about guys like him pushing back on the notion and the assumption that the West is uniquely vile and evil. Well, he makes that assumption of other people. He thinks that non-Westerners are uniquely vile and evil,
course.
so much to the point that he's willing to go to such an absurd length as to say, well, at least the Nazis felt shame.
Which look, as far as it goes, there are stories like that. There are stories. I was telling you. I think this is in the battle for.
Well, you're always going to have some people who have a crisis of conscience in any situation where you're dealing with thousands of people.
Well, yeah, I mean, and especially you got to remember a lot of these Nazis being sent into Stalingrad were not devout, ideologically committed Nazis. They were soldiers who got drafted into a war, and then they're told to machine gun a village.
Right.
Right. So, of course, it struck some of these guys that way. We know it strikes some of the IDF people that way because we have some interviews that are surfacing of IDF people saying,
right. But
once I saw
question.
what this really was.
Right.
If
you're going to go and interrogate this issue, you would have to put the IDF on trial, right? You would have to make the comparison. That's
what's so out of tune. Even in Bill Ackman's letter, when we covered that, He says, would Harvard accept a protest where people were shouting Tulsa, Tulsa, Tulsa from the Pacific to the Atlantic? And it's so clearly out of tune because Israel is much closer ideologically and realistically to the people who committed the atrocities in Tulsa than the victims of Tulsa.
Exactly.
That is why these comparisons don't work. I got to say, Douglas Murray, I saw him as potentially kind of the William F. Buckley of his generation. It's very disappointing to see how fundamentally corrupt his ideas are, and that he's really nothing more than he's a modern day English aristocrat of the Victorian era in his worldview.
All right. Well, we're not done with Douglas Murray, but since that was a sizable segment, we'll make this a different clip. So I'll just set this up separately if you can all humor me in the audience. Conservative author and writer Douglas Murray, sort of right-wing public intellectual of sorts, recently was on the Piers Morgan show where he made the point that in comparison to Hamas, the Nazis were ashamed of the crimes that they committed against the Jewish people. Of course, not evaluating the IDF soldiers on that same scale for the crimes that they have committed against the Palestinian people, now to the tune of 10,000 dead civilians. But Douglas Murray retweeted a video from this Andy Ngo account. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that name. I don't know how to do the NG thing. I still haven't, but I should have looked that up because it was an issue last
I mean,
time.
we have so many smarties now that you said that. There's going to be like 10 people in the chat who explain.
They'll let me know.
Yeah.
But here's a tweet. Breaking. Volunteers at Victoria Station in London selling poppies for a veteran charity on Remembrance Day/Veterans Day are surrounded by pro-Palestine protesters. The charity volunteers are forced to move further and further away. Douglas Murray retweets that with a quote, 11/11, November 11th, in London, 2023. Unbelievable that it should come to this. Now, folks, we have all seen, if you're on Twitter, you've seen a lot of horrific images of carnage, a lot of gut-wrenching video of mothers crying over their children, children crying over their mothers. It's just really hard to take. But I have to warn you, folks, what you are about to see, as Douglas Murray has warned you, is just unthinkable. Unthinkable. So let's go to the video here. Once again, warning, folks. Warning. If you have a weak stomach, you may want to open another window and come back in a minute or so, because this is not easy to take.
It's probably the worst one floating around.
So here these vendors are at their table selling their stuff for Veterans Day. As you can see, a protest forming. There's chanting. And it gets to you after a while. It really does, watching footage like this. Like, it's really soul-crushing. Sometimes I have to take a break. You know?
Well, yeah. I mean, I saw this like right before we did the show. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to go on.
I know. I almost put this last because I didn't think we'd be able to recover from the trauma of seeing this. I figure, okay, we'll do this last. This way we can take the rest of the night off.
I mean, there's free speech and then there's this. I mean,
this
is
now
not,
this is the worst part.
This
is the worst part, folks. Look at this.
Oh my God!
Look at this.
Are they moving the table?
They're moving.
Oh my God! They have to move the table
to accommodate the protest.
I mean, I've been seeing a lot of footage of dead kids coming out of Gaza, but that's nothing.
Yeah, nothing compared
to
this.
The horrors.
Look at this. They're still moving it. They tried moving it 10 feet. Now they got to move it another 10 feet.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
I mean, every foot is another atrocity.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry to have to show you this, folks. I really am. I take no pleasure in subjecting you.
If anyone needs to step away, we should be done with this in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, we should be done. There's just a few seconds left. It's mercifully short. But okay. Whew. All right, we made it.
Man, we got through that.
Oh.
Wow. That was something.
All right, folks. You know what?
So now people like Douglas Murray will be the first to jump up and talk about how much significance the cenotaph has and how sacred that is, and they'll tell you how these people died for your freedom, but they don't seem to want anyone to exercise that freedom.
Yeah, yeah.
They like the word freedom. They like the theory of freedom. They don't actually like the practice of freedom. They want people to die for a freedom that you never exercise in gratitude.
11/11 in London. Unbelievable that it should come to this. What a whiny little bitch. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The number of videos that have circulated of unspeakable horror, stuff that has traumatized people. People have been telling me I had to throw up after watching certain videos. And this guy retweets out a video of vendors having to move out of the way to accommodate a peaceful protest. It's not even like anyone confronted them. You didn't have a protester come and flip the table and get out of here. No, nothing. A crowd was forming. They realized the crowd was getting a little big, so they thought maybe we should move a few feet down. That's it. That's literally all that happened. Unbelievable that it should come to this.
Well, because in the end, their position is so indefensible that they have to go after things like this. And really, I'm seeing this. It's a very strange moment in terms of kind of culture wars between the Bud Light thing and the Target thing. Corporate America is scared. So if you look at, for example, the Christmas ads this year, they really don't want to do anything that might trigger a Bud Light situation. But you got to remember, people like Murray and similar people in a similar lane, this is a whole complex of businesses, right? I mean, they're making their living off this shit. Like they can't afford to win.
No, I'd say this is the war, conservative petty grievance industrial complex.
Well, and that's what you're really seeing, because before they did have certain things that I personally felt they had a right to be aggrieved about, and I was aggrieved about. I don't consider myself right wing or conservative, but now they kind of won that. I think I don't think you're going to be seeing any drag kids in Christmas ads this year. So they're going after just stupid stuff. They went after a commercial where people were gleeful. They used Meatloaf's, a cover of Meatloaf's I Would Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That. And it was all people doing all the rigorous stuff you do to prepare for Christmas with a glue gun and everything. And at the end, they decide, fuck it, I'm not doing this. And they take bats and smash all the stuff. And, it's like a little disposable joke, right? Oh, look at the war on Christmas. Like they could. It's like, guys, you won. If that's the best that you could find to get outraged about, you won. But it's their job to be outraged, right? I mean, it's how they make their living now. So Douglas Murray, I mean, he's got to go after things like this because blessedly these protests have been peaceful. They haven't done anything to actually justify outrage. If you believe in the right of speech, if you believe in the right of protest, then there's nothing to get outraged about. But you look at these people like Douglas Murray, particularly Douglas Murray, he really represents that. I mean, which is funny, being an openly gay man. He really represents that old school British outrage at sacking the foundations of our society.
Impropriety.
Right? It's that.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, look at this on Veterans Day. Oh, God. Right? Monocle drop. It's
right.
It's really disgusting, and it's sad, man, because he has a brilliant mind. It's sad that he is this just batshit crazy in the end. I mean, I think to think this way, you have to be a little insane.
Yeah, agreed. P. Walker, thanks for the $5. Sabra's partner must be named Shatilla, named after two massacres the IDF were involved in when they were blowing up Beirut in the 1980s. That came out. What was the first? What year did that come out?
1980.
Yeah, 1980. Right.
So send that to Kevin Feige. Maybe he'll put it in.
Yeah. KN Kareem, thanks for the $9.99. Falcon was fine as Falcon. This is why Marvel failing $47 million for the Marvel trash as fuck movie. What do you think about that, Russell? Do you agree? I couldn't speak to it.
Yes, and you know, as I was saying before, man, you can do anything. You know, I would never say you absolutely can't do it. If you do it well, you can do anything. But the people at Marvel are not qualified. And because they've taken the tack of, instead of adding, switching, the way to really diversify is to add more characters, to broaden out the focus while satisfying your core fans by keeping those core characters, right? And then you build out from there. Black Panther demonstrated it doesn't have to be all white. Like it's not, when you say classic characters, it doesn't mean it has to be Iron Man and Captain America. Black Panther was a huge hit. You know, expand into those characters. Like, you don't need to swap these characters out. And, you know, we had some people saying the comic book run was good. And again, I can see how it would be, you could do it well, but not these people. They're not going to do it well. It's like Alfred Hitchcock once said, when an artist is painting a picture of apples, it's not what he's painting, it's the manner in which he paints it.
Right.
It's not that you couldn't do a good version of Falcon becomes Captain America, but not these fucking idiots.
Putz the Mouse, thanks for the $1.99. Love you guys. Thank you, Putz the Mouse. Love you too. Jax Page, I joined your Patreon. Oh, thank you, Jax Page.
Oh,
That's an
thank you,
honor.
Jax.
Keep up the good work. Thank you, Jax. Yeah, we've had, actually, I'll give an update on this because I got my little phone here. We've had, since I made that plea, because once we get to 500 paid subscribers, folks, we are adding a 4th stream per week. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're up to 408. 408. So like I said, we are closing in on 500 paid members, which will afford us the ability to do that 4th stream. So patreon.com/DoDissidents if you want to make that happen. You also get call-in access to the Q&As and 2 patron-exclusive streams per month. So that is quite the deal, we think. Virgil Ellis Wade, thanks for the $5. Sam Wilson gets a turn with the mantle of Captain America in the comics. Captain America Volume 7, Issue 25 is when it happens.
No, yeah, I know. I'm just saying these people are not, I'm sure it had resonance and subtext, particularly if it was one of the older ones. I know the comics themselves have completely fallen off a cliff as well. They've all kind of gotten the woke mind virus as well. Yeah, no, I remember back, because all these comic book writers were like hippies and activists. I mean, the 70s, you had, The Hawk and the Dove, which was like a black and white superhero team. They were doing a lot of that kind of thing back then, which actually explains why Sabra had somewhat of a complicated storyline in that first appearance, surprisingly. But yeah, you can do it. But did you see the TV series on Disney Plus? Enough said. I mean, we've already seen what that looks like, and it's not good. Not from them.
All right. Here's $5 from Vladimir Putin. Thank you very much for that donation. We appreciate that. It's very kind of you. I don't know. Just taking a guess at your name there because I can't read it. But
you can't read that.
But thank you for the donation. Appreciate that. Ava, Session 7. I love the sheep story. Thank you, Ava. Appreciate that. Yeah, that was a fun one. I like the sheep story, too. Kuznetsky Bassane, thanks to the $4.99 super sticker. Appreciate that, my friend. And thank you to Magnus for the $3 super sticker. Hey, how are we doing on likes, folks? Any chance we can get to 666 likes so we get another Maiden sound drop? We got to be close. We got a big crowd in here, 1,262 in the YouTube chats. We've also got 667 viewers in the Rumble chat. Yeah, let's hit it again because we have 790 likes, and we've also gotten 666 in the Rumble chat. At least a half hour ago we did. I don't know. All right. Criticizing Douglas Murray is taking a little bit of a chance on Rumble, but you know we gotta say what we gotta say.
Rumble is right wingers.
Rumble is right wing. Yes. No, actually, Rumble's getting more left-wing now because now a lot of creators
we're
are being
fleeing
forced
over there,
to grow their Rumble audiences, which is wonderful. So we love to see that. And we love you all on YouTube, too. We are a big tent here, of course. No disrespect intended. All right, let's move on, shall we? Because we just got done with Douglas Murray defending Adolf Hitler, but in a sense, you could say he was taking his cue from another famous Hitler apologist, one Benjamin Netanyahu. So this is old video. This is not current, as you can see. But this has been making the rounds lately. This video got trending for reasons that you'll learn quite quickly.
Exterminate the Jews. Hitler didn't want to exterminate.
Be wrong about this. I should have confirmed this, but I believe that was 2015 because that's when the article that was written about about those comments was actually put out. But yeah, look, I mean, this just goes to show you that they'll say anything in service of their goals. That's what I said when we were on the Jimmy Dore show. I said they will say what suits their goals. The only reason Netanyahu is saying to Dana Bash on CNN, because he did an interview with her, I think, today or yesterday, pretty recently. Wasn't recently enough for us to catch it for this evening. But he said, you know, any civilian loss of life is tragic, right? So we have to work to minimize it. The only reason he's saying that is because he knows he cannot, rhetorically at least, offend American sensibilities too much because we fund him.
I mean, he can, though. He can, though.
No, but he has to maintain.
I mean, at this point, he's done everything but wipe his ass with the American flag.
Well,
I mean,
he said that he's not going to agree to a humanitarian pause, or I mean, we have not pressured him into a ceasefire, but he will not agree to a humanitarian pause because he knows that we will cover for their crimes by you know, parroting the human shield argument. But he has to go on media and say we regret civilian casualties because he is catering to an American audience, and he has to at least create some sort of pretense that
he has to give Biden deniability.
Right, that he is pursuing this in a way that would be acceptable to Americans with American sensibilities, right? Because I made this point on the Jimmy Dore show, too. Notice, we did not even bomb the bin Laden compound. We sent SEAL Team 6 in. We lowered the helicopters very quietly, and we sent the guys in with guns, right? I mean, why wouldn't we have just leveled that compound the way Israel is leveling refugee camps and hospitals and schools? If we knew bin Laden was in there, we could drop a bomb on there that would blast that place in a second. We can't show this on YouTube because we would, at the very least, get it age restricted, if not blocked altogether. But there was a video on Twitter that showed a mosque being blown up, and from a surveillance camera across the street. It happens instantly. I mean, not one frame. A one frame of video is 1/24th of a second.
Right.
You see the bomb drop in, and then the next frame, the whole place is on fire. So we could have just taken out that compound, right? What do we have to send our men in there for? What do we have to send troops in there for? Put them in harm's way? Because even in that case, we couldn't justify leveling the whole building, right? And so Netanyahu, when he goes and he, you know, comes and grovels to us, he has to at least create a certain pretense that he is attempting to uphold values that don't offend the sensibilities of the average American too much. But this, I mean, that's something new. You don't see that every day.
Yeah, well, that's not surprising given that, half the people in the upper levels of the Israeli government have openly called the Palestinians animals.
Yep.
So once you dehumanize people like that, the sky is the limit. And there's also from the other side, if you peek in on the other side and their propaganda. I saw a video today, some woman giving a lecture to rabid Zionists who really appreciated what she had to say. And the history that she was presenting, and I've heard this kind of history presented before, and it's completely ahistorical, that the Muslim world, spread out and was under a caliphate for 1,400 years. That's not true. That's not true. There were different pockets of Muslim leadership that were dominant in different periods. You had the Arabians and the Ottomans, and even within the Ottomans, they never had total control over the Muslim world, and you had fighting factions within the Ottoman world. You had attempts to overthrow the Sultan. It's the idea that there was this monolithic Islam that spread like the blob over these countries, and it's got a Unitarian vision of crushing all non-believers, when actually, and you notice, a lot of people like to bring up, when they want to gin up this kind of hostility towards Muslims, they like to bring up the tax. I think it's called the jizya. The tax, I could be wrong about that, but I'm close at the very least. I might be.
I thought the jizya was a Muslim porn site.
Well, yeah, because you pay a tax to watch it. But they would tax the Christians and the Jews. They would give them a special tax. So they present this as this horrific thing. But can you tell me what was going on with Jews in Europe at that time? How were Christian countries treating Jews during the period that you're talking about? They don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about the fact that depending on the period and the ruler, very often Jews and Christians in Muslim lands were appointed to high office. This is a time when in Christian lands you really couldn't be not a Christian without risking your life. I think if you would ask the Jews in Europe if they could just go about their business if they paid a tax, that would have sounded like a pretty good fucking deal to them at that time in history. She also didn't get into, and none of the people who make this argument get into it because it complicates the narrative. There were periods when they lifted the tax on the Christians and imposed it on the Muslims because they wanted Europeans to come and set up trading posts within the Muslim lands to stimulate their economy. So they would lift that tax and actually impose it on their own people instead. They don't talk about that. So this presentation of history that they give is just complete bullshit, but they're secure in the knowledge that most people won't look into it and certainly don't know enough to just know as soon as they hear it that it's absolute fucking nonsense.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was something that we saw for the first time when we did the Jimmy Dore show. I had not seen that clip. But we thought
my jaw dropped when I saw it.
Yeah, we thought since Douglas Murray made that same point, we should feature this because that kind of gives you a little bit of context to what he said there.
And the idea, just before we go away from it completely, the idea that the Muslims were uniquely prone to spread their religion through violence. You're coming from the Christian world, making the argument that one of the big issues that we should have with the Muslim world is the way it was spread. Actually, it's quite the opposite. The Muslims saw Jews and Christians as people of the book.
Right.
So they did not force conversion. They gave them a tax.
Right.
Unlike you guys who fucking killed them.
Oh, yeah, killed
if they
them,
didn't convert.
Exactly.
What are you talking about that the Muslims uniquely spread their religion at the end of a sword? You're from the Christian fucking world making that argument.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
Insane. Mescalito, thanks for the $5. Where do you guys think Hitchens would have fallen on this one in his later years? I'm having a hard time discerning. Yeah, I mean, he was a tough nut to crack. He had some very good opinions in his life and some very bad ones. He was always more pro-Palestinian than most. Not quite good enough on the issue, but better than most. So on this, I mean, no. I mean, he detested Netanyahu. So I have a feeling he would be on the right side of this one. But thank you for that, Miss Galito. Hail Satan 666. Thank you, beautiful. I gave you enough of those drops tonight. So thanks, Egg64. Appreciate that. Magnus Scala Grimson. Hope I got that name close to right. Thanks for the $5. I grew up in a pro-Israel household, but that changed after the murder of Rabin. And the ascendance of Likud. Interesting.
Yeah, good for your people, man.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Okay. All right, we'll take this one. Now, I was going to wait. Y'all should sell union-made black, white, green, and red yarmulkes in your shop. Yeah, that would be something. You should.
You know what, man? I love that idea.
I like the Palestine yarmulke.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That is awesome. That's the kind of thing where it's just an awesome troll because people won't know how to react to it. Like, I would walk around New York with that, and just have Penner. I'll call Penner and have him follow me around to catch reactions.
Right. Yeah, that would be good. Okay. It's interesting that we're going to do this next segment minutes before 9 p.m. Eastern because just as we do this segment live, CNN is dropping a new documentary presentation called Anti-Semitism in America. And Dana Bash was talking about this documentary a few days ago on CNN. Here is a piece of the conversation.
That we saw in the past.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Here we go.
The hate crimes that we saw in the past, 10 years, largely came from events that started in the hard right, white supremacists. That was for Jews, for blacks and beyond. But what has been going on beneath the surface, Boris, particularly at college campuses, is a latent anti-Semitism. And a lot of universities didn't want to talk about it because they say, no, it's not anti-Semitism, it's political speech when you speak out against Israel, which, as you heard from the ambassador, that's fine. I mean, if you talk to a lot of Jews, they will probably be the most critical of whatever given government is in Israel. But this is different because it's about an existential right to exist, not just in Israel, but it is being fomented in a very aggressive and violent way here in the U.S. And a lot of it is because it hasn't been addressed properly. It's been swept under the rug at college campuses in particular.
Yeah, I mean, there are disagreements about policy,
sure,
but you can't really disagree with someone's human right to just be.
I agree 100%. That there are disagreements about policy, but you can't disagree about someone's human right to just be. I agree with that 100%, except that the quote-unquote policy you're referring to in that statement is the genocide of the Palestinian people, right? So they're actually the same thing in this context. But he's not talking about the genocide of the Palestinian people. He's talking about the fear that Jews feel on college campuses. Now, I've said this a million times on the show, and I feel compelled to say it every time. Yeah, well, I feel compelled to say this every time. Obviously, most of you guys watching here, unless you're watching for the very first time, know that I'm Jewish myself. Most of you guys know, because I made this point in the past, I sent my kids to a Jewish daycare. Safety was a concern. My wife and I thought, then it crosses your mind, right? Because Jewish community centers have been targeted from time to time, tragically, obviously. And the daycare was in the second floor of one of these Jewish community centers. So, yes, I take anti-Semitism quite seriously and the threat of anti-Semitic hate crimes quite seriously, which is why what you guys are doing on CNN right now is so toxic and so terrible. I feel like you are putting Jews at risk. You are further endangering Jews by furthering this notion that to be Jewish is to support what Israel is doing right now. Exactly. And that's what you're doing. The Zionist Jews are using Jews like me as a human shield. That's what you're doing. You're using me as a human shield. You're making my life more dangerous because you're putting out there that everyone who's Jewish like me supports the mass slaughter of Palestinian children. That makes people hate me more. Okay? Right. So you're making my life more dangerous. You're not doing the Jewish people any favors by parroting this psychotic, homicidal bullshit.
For normal people who do not make a living lying and propagandizing on behalf of the military-industrial complex, to support Israel in this situation is to be a Nazi. So what you are essentially telling people is that Jews are Nazis when you say this, when you say that Jewish people support the state of Israel.
Yeah.
And how do people react to Nazis? How do they,
exactly.
How do they
hate
handle
them.
Nazis?
They hate them. So you're putting us in further danger. You're not protecting us at all. You're putting us in further danger, using us as human shields, ironically.
Some of the language that's used around these issues often gets very coded, and we've seen that play out specifically this week on Capitol Hill.
We did. And you're talking about Rashida Tlaib, and she was censured. 22 of her fellow
Oh,
Democrats
good.
voted to censure her.
Thank God.
And
Yeah, thank
it was,
God she was censored.
not because of her political speech. Obviously, she is a politician.
Right.
She has a right to do that, and she is very passionate about the Palestinian issue. In particular, she is the first Palestinian woman to be elected to Congress. Her grandmother lives in Gaza. But it's because she used the term in a video, From the River to the Sea. Which she claims it's about hope for peace. That's not what it is from the perspective of almost all Jews who understand. From the river to the sea is the Jordan River
Jews?
to the
Yeah,
which Jews?
Which Jews?
Which Jews are you talking about? Jewish Voice for Peace that shut down Grand Central Terminal?
Chanting that very thing?
Yeah, those Jews? Which Jews are you talking about?
Yeah.
Because I'm not offended by it.
No, I'm not offended by it either. And I love how she says, yeah, she says from the river to the sea, saying that actually is a call for peace, but that's not how most Jews see it. Well, first of all, what about how Rashida Tlaib sees it? Well, what about how she meant it? What about the intentions behind her words? Do those not matter? Of course, apparently not. What about the way Jews like myself feel about that? Do we not matter? Does that not matter?
Yeah,
Apparently
we're supposed to listen to marginalized voices until those voices sing out of tune.
Exactly.
Mediterranean.
Not just Jews, but Hamas. In
Hamas,
their doctrine, they describe it as their cause.
Thank you for adding that.
Yeah.
That's such an important point.
Oh, they describe it as their cause to
Hamas.
take back the land of the people they represent that was stolen from them.
Right.
I'm shocked. I am shocked that this group wants to get their land back. That is eliminationist. You know what? I guarantee you, if you give these people back their land, they don't really give a fuck what Jews do beyond that.
Well, this is the thing. Well, but that's
You
why
think they think they're going to show up at Katz's?
But that's why it's not elimination. That's why it's not eliminationist. Am I saying that right? My tongue got
you're
tangled
saying it
there.
right.
Elimination.
That's a hard one. It's a hard one. It's just entered common speech.
Yeah, exactly. That is a real tough one. Damn. But that's why it's not that. Because from the river to the sea simply means a free Palestine from the river to the sea, which means Palestinians with free and equal rights from the river to the sea on land that was theirs. They have free and equal rights on that land. That's all that means. That doesn't mean the extermination of Jews. Now, Hamas is a militant group, and part of the reason they are such a militant group, and you can call them a terrorist group, part of the reason they are is because of the circumstances out of which they were born, right? Which Israel controlled, and Israel propped up Hamas, okay?
Because they did not want a Palestinian state.
Exactly. Well, precisely. So once again, the new safe and effective line here in East Berlin is that we do not condone any violence. All violence is tragic. All war is obscene. All right? This is not a promotion of violence or violent organizations. But the point is, if you're going to litigate that phrase and a Palestinian woman says it and explains what she means by it, and you're just going to invalidate it because from the Jewish perspective, it means something different. Well, it means something different because Israel has refused to give Palestinians equal rights. If you just tried that, then it wouldn't have that eliminationist context in your mind, okay? Here's an article by, I guess, former friend of the show. We interviewed him a couple years ago. He was nice. I've gone back and forth with him on, Twitter a few times. I've gotten into some few debates with him since then, but, I'm not so
polite debates?
Yeah, kind of. Marginally polite. I tried to be polite. Yeah. I mean, look,
he came on when we had 4 subscribers and 2 of them were your kids.
Yeah. No, he was very nice to us. And oddly enough, we didn't really talk about anything pressing at the time. We were talking about his book on Christopher Hitchens. But I'm not so petty where I can't say, look, there's an old Jewish saying, when you're right, you're right. And in this case,
only Jews say it.
Ben Burgess wrote an article, From the River to the Sea is a call for democracy and equality. So when you're right, you're right. And he argues, it's true that Hamas uses from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and similar slogans, but the phrase predates Hamas and is also widely used by advocates of a single democratic state with equal rights for Israeli Jews, Palestinian Muslims, and Christians, Thai and Indian guest workers, and everyone else who lives there. Tlaib made it very clear that she belongs to this camp. Yes, you argue it's tactically unwise. You can argue, pardon me, it's tactically unwise to use a slogan that can be misinterpreted, but you can't honestly deny that this is what she means by it. So what possible basis could there be for seeing support for a single state throughout the whole territory rather than the partition of Israel into two states as a censure-worthy offense in a body defined by constant political disagreements? The resolution claims that the slogan entails Israel's destruction and denial of its fundamental right to exist, but it's never been clear to me what it means to say that a state has a right to exist. Did Czechoslovakia have a right to exist? The Confederacy, the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies, particular national configurations rising or falling as existing states break up or fuse with other states is a common event throughout history and doesn't always entail any sort of injustice. In this case, we aren't even talking about Israel. This is a good point. We aren't even talking about Israel breaking up or fusing with some other state. The one-state solution embodied in the slogan From the River to the Sea, Palestine will be free, doesn't involve changing current borders in any way. The contemplated transformation would be more like South Africa ceasing to be a white state in the 1990s. Yes.
Exactly. They cannot concede that without admitting that the premise of Israel as currently constituted is an apartheid premise.
Exactly.
You cannot have a Jewish state in a predominantly Muslim area that is anything else. Because as soon as you give everyone equal rights, it's not a Jewish state anymore. It's a predominantly Muslim state with a large Jewish population.
Exactly. So he argues this very well here. This is the last piece of it. We'll read. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free is a call for Israel to extend citizenship and legal and political equality to every single human being residing within its current borders. Exactly. Now, Israel perceives that as an existential threat to its existence because they are unwilling to grant Palestinians equal rights. That's why they perceive it that way, and that's why they have to demonize that phrase, because they don't want to live up to the aspiration of that phrase, which is simply free and equal rights for Palestinians within those borders. It's as simple as fucking that. It's as simple as that, except Israel will not agree to it. The reason that a two-state solution, i.e. a partition of the country into a rump Israeli state and a brand new Palestinian state, which would necessitate forcibly relocating hundreds of thousands of Israeli settlers from the West Bank, is considered the reasonable and moderate alternative to a one-state solution, is that if Israel gave everyone within its current borders equal citizenship, it would no longer exist as a Jewish state. Exactly, in the sense of having a clear majority of its citizens be Jewish. Instead, there would be roughly equal numbers of Palestinian and Jewish citizens. Why would that be a catastrophe to anyone who sees both Jews and Palestinians as human beings innately deserving the same rights? Exactly. That is not a catastrophe. That is a realization of basic human rights for everybody within those borders, and that is all that that phrase means. The reason the Israelis take it to mean something different is because they will not ever agree to the terms of equal rights for the Palestinian people.
That's it. That's it. And that gives away the game.
Exactly.
That's why they don't want that phrase out there. They don't want to litigate these kinds of questions. If a leader like Orban says this is a Christian state, the West loses its mind, right? Oh my God, that's fascist. So how is it not fascist when you say this is a Jewish state?
John Kerry, when he was Obama's Secretary of State, hardly a radical, right? Hardly Antifa, right? John Kerry said Israel could either be a Jewish state or a democratic state. It cannot be both. That is a quote from John Kerry. Okay? So this is not radicalism here. This is not anything outside the bounds of just a normie understanding of what basic democracy is.
Right, right.
Okay? If Israel does not want to agree to that, that's on them. But then it is they who are choosing to demonize that phrase, to distort the meaning of it, because they will not agree to grant Palestinians equal rights. Free Palestine from the river to the sea means our people are free to live their lives as equals on this land. That is all that means. That has nothing to do with eliminating anybody.
And we've said this before, and for anybody who finds themselves debating Zionists around your dinner table or otherwise, what they will very often tell you to confuse that is, but we have Arab citizens in Israel. How can it be an apartheid state? Okay, those are a small number of Arabs and their descendants who managed not to get kicked out with the Nakba, who managed to stay. They were given citizenship. That's it. Nobody's allowed to come in as a Muslim and become an Israeli. Palestinians are not allowed to get Israeli citizenship, even by marriage. They have this small fig leaf that they always deploy when you accuse them of being an apartheid state, of this small number of Nakba descendants who have full citizenship rights. But that's it. It's still an apartheid state. It's like if in South Africa they had some small number of blacks they allowed into parliament, right? It would still be an apartheid state.
Right. Indeed. All right, we'll take some more super chats, and then we have one more segment, and then immediately following the conclusion of this program, folks, we have our Q&A over on Rumble, so make sure you are there for that. Make sure you join us for that. Crab Eaters Real, thanks for the $5. Question for Russell. When you're in New Orleans, can you try your best to get Jimmy down there? Love to meet you both, and I plan to use it as a mixer.
I'm pretty, he must have visited New Orleans at some point. I'm not sure what he said. We talked a little bit about it. I can't remember if he said he had been down there before.
One of my mom's best friends has a jewelry store in the French Quarter. She's had it for years, little handmade jewelry store. Yeah, I've been to New Orleans a couple times, but never as a grown man, only as a kid. So I wasn't able to really have the New Orleans experience. I haven't been down there. I haven't been to New Orleans in probably 20 years, something like that.
20 years?
What am I talking about? More. God, I'm almost 37. So yeah, like 25 years.
I'm looking up when the Mardi Gras is. February 13th.
February 13th, Mardi Gras with Russell Dobular. Kuznetsky Basine, thanks for the $4.99. Eisenhower in the Soviet Union, a third couldn't hack it, a third lasted longer term, and a third liked killing, and so we transferred out. Thank you, Kuznetsky Basine. That's a good super chat for you, because you usually just give us these stickers, but thank you. I appreciate that. Tusker says, Russell reading books on history is right. Thank you, Tusker.
As you can probably tell, as promised, I have been studying the history of the Muslim world in the Middle East.
He has been reading up. SB, DC Marvel are overrated. How can they explain their heroes doing nothing while apartheid existed? That and redoing the same stories for 50 years.
Yeah, where the fuck was Superman?
Yeah, exactly.
At least DC kind of has an excuse, because quickly, all right, Keaton, you can go use the bathroom now. So the reason Superman lives in Metropolis and Batman lives in Gotham, so when they created those characters, they didn't think people would be able to suspend their disbelief if they placed them in the real world. So at least those characters theoretically don't live in our world, whereas the Marvel characters do.
They were both doubles for New York, obviously, though. Metropolis and Gotham.
Well, no. Metropolis is a double for Chicago. Clark Kent's from the Midwest.
Oh, it is? I thought Metropolis... Oh, you know why I thought that? Because they filmed the Superman movie in
the
New York.
1978, yes.
Right.
Basically, they made Metropolis Gotham.
Interesting. All right. Online guy, thanks for the $1 on Rumble. Russell, you like metal. Do you like Meshuggah? Partly sending because I don't want to hear talk Marvel. Thank you, online guy.
I've never heard them.
I think I have heard of that band, actually. Interesting, because I'm not a big metal fan. It's not to say I don't like it. There's stuff I like, but not an aficionado of the genre by any means, but I think I have heard of them. I don't think that was a joke, chat. The only reason why non-Muslims, says Soccer Papa, thank you for the $4.99, had to play jizya is because they were not subject to zakat, which is mandatory for Muslims.
Interesting. Okay.
And Meteor Dreams, Claudia Sheinbaum, first Jewish candidate for president of Mexico in 2024. She is AMLO's pick for president. Their elections are in July 2024. Interesting. That is interesting. I didn't know that. Thank you, Meteor Dreams. Appreciate that. Auntie Ann, thanks for the $10. Do you think it could be the ultimate intent of Zionists to finish what the little Austrians started? The only little thing that makes sense, maybe Jewish Zionism, is Hasbara. Well, yes, obviously. I mean, obviously the goal here is to clear out Gaza. Now, I don't think they are intent on killing everyone, but I think they're happy to do that if they have to. They just want the land. They want the land. That's completely obvious. Throughout history, it's been completely obvious. And yes, I do think their goal is clearly to clear the people out and take that land. Okay, we have one more segment to do. We have a few more super chats to read. We have one more Rumble rant to read as of now. But I do want to just give a heads up. Immediately following the conclusion of the program, we are live after a brief intermission, a 5-minute intermission, for a post-show Q&A on Rumble. So rumble.com/do dissidents is where you go for that if you're here on YouTube. Make sure you head over to Rumble after the show if you want to stick around and hang out with us for the Q&A after party, all right? So that's where you go, and this live stream will be the first thing on that page when you go to that link. So rumble.com/do dissidents. Great crowd, 1242 in YouTube chat, 703 in Rumble chat right now. So you got a great crowd over there.
I'm going to answer, people are wondering if Mad Magazine's still published. I was a big fan when I was a kid. I'm almost positive they stopped publishing.
Yeah, they may have. I read a few issues.
Do they still make Cracked even? Cracked is like online now, right?
Cracked
they
is
do
online.
A lot of like listicles. They kind of evolve.
Yeah, Cracked is like a list site. Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. We have one more segment to do. Then we'll take the rest of our super chats, and then we will end the main show and go to Rumble for the Q&A. So, folks, I gave a warning for intense content. That was a joke warning on the Douglas Murray video. This one is a real one. No graphic violence. Obviously, we don't show any graphic, bloody violence here. But this is really a gut-wrenching story. We are minutes away from death. Gaza's Al-Shifa Hospital under attack. Palestinian health officials say babies in incubators are fighting for their lives as Israel lays siege to the hospital compound. Israel's military has brought the war to the front gates of Al-Shifa Hospital, Gaza's biggest hospital complex, where thousands of injured and displaced people are trapped amid ferocious bombardment. The rally that I was at in Troy a couple weeks ago, I showed a video of a man who lost 16 family members, and he had several more in critical care at this very hospital. We are minutes away from imminent death, Mohammed Abu Salmaya, Al-Shifa Hospital's director, told Al Jazeera from inside the besieged facility on Saturday, where operations had to be suspended after it ran out of power and fuel. Abu Salmaya said, Al-Shifa's buildings are being targeted, and any person moving within the hospital compound is being attacked by Israeli snipers. One member of a medical crew who tried to reach the incubator to lend a helping hand to the babies born inside was shot and killed, he said. We lost a baby in the incubator. We also lost a young man in the intensive care unit. Gaza Deputy Health Minister Youssef Abu al-Rish, who is currently inside Al-Shifa Hospital, told Al Jazeera that all generators and power sources were off. We have 39 newborns in the incubators. Those babies are fighting against death. Ferocious gunfire can be heard within the vicinity of the hospital. The intensive care unit received a mortar shell a few minutes ago. Blood is everywhere on the floor. We cannot even clean it, he added. Doctors Without Borders, also known by its French name, Médecins Sans Frontières. I'm butchering the accent there, but you get it. Sans means without, so there you go. Medicine Without Frontiers. Confirmed the situation, saying people were being shot as they tried to exit Al-Shifa Hospital. So Doctors Without Borders is a truly incredible outfit. I mean, they are an incredible organization, and they confirmed that what is being reported in this article is true. Before we get to the rest of the article, I want to play some audio that Doctors Without Borders tweeted out of one of their doctors. Often these are doctors who go into these war zones, right? They're not people who are there from jump. They're people who volunteer to go and put themselves in harm's way in these just unthinkable situations. So here is some audio that Doctors Without Borders put on their Twitter.
Very bad. We don't have connection. There is no internet. Sometimes we have some reason in the call phone. We're on the 4th floor, and also there's a sniper who attacked 4 patients from the inside the hospital. One of them has the gunshot directly in his neck, and he has a quadriplegia, and the other one he has a gunshot in the abdomen. Some of the people which actually go outside the hospital, they want to go to the south, they bump them also. They bump the family from the Al-Shifa Hospital today in the morning. There is no electricity actually, there is no water, there is no food. So our team is exhausted. We have 2 neonate patients die actually because the incubator, it's not working because there is no electricity. Also, we have the adult patient in the ICU. He died because the ventilator is shut down because there is no electricity. We can see actually the smoke around the hospital. They hit everything around the hospital, and they hit the hospital many times. Situation, as I said before, very, very bad. We nearly sure that we are alone now. No one hear us, but we want someone to give us the guarantee that they can evacuate the patients, because we have about 600 inpatient person who need a medical care and who need to evacuation. The problem is to be sure that we can evacuate the neonate patients, because we have about 37 to 40 cases of the neonate, the premature baby. We have about 17 other patients in the ICU, and we have about 600 admitted patients already operated which need a medical care. So situation is very, very bad. We need help. No one hear us.
It's just incredible the level of poise that these people show. I mean, they're in a hospital
and
where
courage.
people are being sniped, and courage, obviously. People are being sniped, shot for moving within the hospital. And here's this doctor saying, we're here for the patients. We are here for the patients. We need to get to evacuate these patients. These doctors are on the job. They are just absolutely incredible. But this is absolutely demonic. Yes, Cheeto, Netanyahu is demonic. Absolutely. Absolutely. Norm Finkelstein calls them satanic. You know, you say tomato, I say tomato. You get the point. It's absolutely sickening. Absolutely vile. Located in the northern Rimal neighborhood close to the port, Al-Shifa became a hospital in 1946, undergoing successive expansions. The facility has become a lifeline for people seeking urgent medical intervention. So this hospital is almost 80 years old. Thousands of people who have lost their homes in Israel's continuing bombardment are also living in the hospital corridors and courtyard. Israel claims Al-Shifa provides cover for a Hamas command center, an accusation the hospital's director has rejected as utter lies. Doctors who have done work with charities there have also said, yeah, no, we don't see any evidence of that whatsoever. Hamas also rejects the claims. United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, who is visiting the region, has said any armed group that uses civilian infrastructure to shield itself is contravening the laws of war. However, he added, but such conduct by Palestinian armed groups does not absolve Israel of its obligation to ensure that civilians are spared. Failure to do so is also in contravention of the laws of war, with devastating impact on civilians. So what they're saying is, even if what you're saying is true, that does not give you a license to kill everyone at the hospital. Right. This is why you have, if you are Israel, you have ground forces. You have access to the most sophisticated intelligence services in the world, ours, which, of course, we, as the United States, would make usable for them in these circumstances. There is obviously, I mean, this is the most obvious fucking thing in the world. There is obviously no excuse in the world to do what they are doing now, which is laying siege upon a hospital. This is not the first time that they have done this, but Al-Shifa, as the article mentions, this was a staple of northern Gaza. This hospital has been a fixture of northern Gaza for almost 80 years, since 1946. And now these people in there assume that they are going to die. I have one more interview that I will play. Now, Kyle Kolinsky tweeted out that this person who's on this interview now is now dead. He's the only person I saw tweet this out, so I'm not confirming that. That's what he said. All right. I haven't seen it anywhere else. But whether he's dead or not, obviously, if he's dead, that's horrible. But these doctors here, these people here all expect to die. They expect that they're going to die. But these doctors are here for the patient. So here is an interview with this doctor on Democracy Now!
Why don't you go with your family south?
And if I go, who treats my patients? They are not animals. They have the right to receive proper health care. You think I went to medical school and for my postgraduate degrees for a total of 14 years, so I think only about my life and not my patients? I'm asking you, ma'am, do you think this is the reason why I went to med school? To think only about my life? This is not the reason why I became a doctor.
Again, I can't confirm that he's been killed. I only saw it on one tweet. I tried looking up his name. I couldn't find any more information. But these doctors know the odds of being in a hospital with no fuel, no electricity, no escape. Not only no escape, being shot through the windows, like the guy said, by snipers. Movement in the hospital is fired upon.
Now, how evil is a military, is a government, where snipers would be shooting into the window of a hospital? How on earth can you keep invoking October 7th to justify this? That was a horrible event, and we don't sanction that kind of violence against anybody. But nothing justifies this. This is collective punishment. These are war crimes in broad daylight, and that's why their propaganda is just not working. It's a world of social media where people can see your lies as fast as you make them up, and people are just not going to go along this time. And that is really something that Israel has had a blank check for so long, that they're just not accounting for what the consequences of that are going to be. I think Israel, whatever the outcome of the military action, is going to be an international pariah outside of the United States and its satellites. I think you're going to see sanctions. I think you're going to see people withdraw their ambassadors and kick out the Israelis. I think it's going to be treated by BRICS nations and its allied countries as a rogue state going forward.
Yeah, they are not going to get away with this. I mean, whether action will be taken in time to save Gaza and save these people.
That's the horrific thing. Even covering this story, it feels so helpless.
Exactly. But, whether or not there's enough time for Gaza remains a question. At the beginning of this, on October 7th, our first show after that, I said it's a foregone conclusion that Gaza will be no more and that the Palestinian people will be no more. I was extremely pessimistic about it. I'm still pessimistic about it, obviously. How can you not be? But given the overwhelming global response to this, I'm a little less pessimistic that this is an extinction-level event for Gaza. A little less. Again, what can you say? But what I can say for certain now, especially given Gen Z's response to this, is that this will not be forgiven, nor will it be forgotten. Israel will, down the road, I guarantee you, pay for this. Pay for this. And not the way that they make people pay for this, by carpet bombing and murdering. That's not what I'm saying. We're not terrorists, okay? We don't advocate doing that to people. But they will be a pariah on the world stage in very, very short time. Exactly. And the new generation is shocked and appalled by this. And that means Israel's days as a member in good standing of the international community are very, very much numbered.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a snowball effect. I think once a few countries start to sanction them, I mean, you had one of the cabinet ministers in Belgium advocating for sanctions against Israel. Once one does it, it's going to be an avalanche. Although I will say, in terms of the Arab countries, they get bribed by the West. They get a lot of money from the West. So Iran convened a meeting with the regional leaders and basically tried to get them to take economic action against Israel and possibly military action. And they wouldn't do it.
Wow. All right. Well, I guess we're going to take some chats, and then we will go to our question and answer session over on Rumble. So that's it for our segments tonight. I'll put the Rumble link up in case any of you guys want to head over there early, but we do have some more super chats. And I think we got a couple more Rumble rants to get to, if I'm not mistaken. Gomaro Ocho.
Hang on. Before you move on, I'll just read very quickly from this. Gulf states fend off call from Iran to arm Palestinians at Riyadh summit. Gulf state leaders have fended off an Iranian-led attempt to call for arming the Palestinians and severing all diplomatic ties with Israel at an extraordinary summit in Riyadh in an effort to retain control of the region's diplomatic response to the Israeli assault on Gaza. So that's in The Guardian, if anyone's curious.
Okay, and also there were some people in the chat who were saying that that last doctor who we played did in fact die. Yeah, I tried verifying that. I couldn't. Look, for all our criticisms of Kyle, I don't think he would tweet that out unless he knew, so I assumed he was right about that, but it's not surprising. It's not surprising.
It's not the Williamson's campaign.
Right, exactly. And what a horrible thing. Glomaro Ochoa Montaro, thank you for the 199. Shalom Hebrews and Shebrews, Peter from Family Guy. Thank you, Glomaro. Appreciate that. Thanks for not being Zionists. I'm in your head 24/7. Well, you're welcome. Is this your first time here? Maybe. I know we got a lot of first-time viewers.
It comes
tonight.
naturally.
Exactly. RJ 1997. Will RBN do Dissidents and Jimmy Dore be covering the capitalist angles about this Gaza land grab? Excuse me. For its natural gas and possible building of a new canal to rival the Suez Canal. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly possible. I've heard that.
I've been hearing things like that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any comprehensive deep dive into it.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly would. I don't see why we wouldn't. But like I said, yeah, like Russell said, I just haven't seen any big reporting. See, the thing about this is like we knew that this was the plan that Israel wanted to hatch all along. And by all along, I don't mean just as of a few months ago. I mean, for decades, we knew this is what they wanted to do, right? So, like, any of those incentives that you're talking about, I don't disbelieve that they're there. Like, I'm not doubting that they're there. But I'm saying this is very much in keeping with Israel's stated MO for decades. And so, like, it's not that that explanation can't be part of the reason, but it's not necessary to explain what they're doing. Right. But thank you for that. And we certainly will cover it if we see, more comprehensive reporting on it.
I'll dig around. I'll see what I can find.
Yeah, we'll see what we can find. 007 Angelo, cracked is the title for the Hunter Biden biography. Thank you, 007 Angelo. Good one. Bennett Weiss, my dad's watching. Hi, Dad. Want a 3-minute summary of Zionism? Google the lyrics and listen to the theme song from the movie Exodus. Interesting. All right.
Okay. All right.
Thank you for that. Nancy Jensen, thank you for the 199. Appreciate that. Super sticker. What I do. Here we go. Tusker, thanks for the $5. I work with a Jewish Iraq war medic. In emergencies, he is always the most calm and level-headed because of his background. He also supports Palestine. Right on. Yeah, no, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. That is really, I mean, you talk about just hardcore people. I mean, we saw that nurse, talk about Anderson Cooper. That's another clip I haven't had a chance to drop yet, but I will. Yeah, just amazing. Just absolutely extraordinary people. So thank you for that, Tusker. SB, thanks for the $5. DC has no excuse. They made the Joker work with Iran, and in the Injustice movie, have an evil Superman solve the Palestine and Kashmir.
Do they? Do they? So what is that? One of the animated adaptations, I assume? I'll look that up.
DC, the Crusades lasted until 1948. Agree or disagree?
Well, I mean, you could argue that Israel is an extension of the Crusades because
Right.
through Israel, the Western Christian world controls Jerusalem.
Right. Indeed. Indeed. So good point, DC. Pete Sweet. History will never forget the world's criminal silence. There will be a reckoning. Yes, there will be. Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. And that's why, I said this on the Patreon stream, and I guess I'll say it for a bigger audience. It's not for me to tell the Palestinian people what to do. Do they flee? Do they not flee? But, what I would say is survive this. Survive this. Just live. Survive. Because there is now a global movement that is devoted to getting you justice for this. Can you ever make this right? No, there's no way to ever make a thing like this right.
Right.
But there is a global movement now that is committed to getting justice for this, and you can't be a part of that if you're not around. You know what I mean?
I saw a meme today saying, in regards to all these children being killed, every one of those children was somebody's whole world.
Yeah, of course. Of course. That is why I say, man, I'm a parent of 4-year-olds. Every time I see it, every time I see a kid either dead or injured or maimed or crying over a mother or father, without fail, I see, what if that were my kid? What if that were my family? Just, every single time. That's why it's a gutting thing to be, to keep having to face this every single day without break. But we have to. We have to. Is the absolute least we could do. Yassine Miller, thanks for the $20. As Turkish-American mother and American father, we sent our daughter to Jewish Community Center daycare. Interesting. Catholic primary middle school. Currently master's degree. Beautiful. She's bilingual. We raised her to be a citizen of the world. Well, bravo.
Yep. That's the way to do it.
Indeed.
Yeah, I mean, these days the way to do it might be to raise them off the grid in Alaska. But hey,
yeah, right, exactly.
Those were different times you were raising her.
Indeed. Ernest Dowson on Rumble. Thanks for the $10. People who were terrified about Putin using atomic bombs seem perfectly okay with the murderous, messianic, madman Zionists having nukes at their fingertips. Yeah. Well, this is what I mean. This is what Russell said. I forget if you said this offline or when we started. I don't want to hear anybody fucking bitch about any other country and how they do business and how they treat people. If we are rubber stamping this, we are in absolutely zero position to judge anybody else for anything ever. Don't want to hear it. Online guy, thanks for the $1. RFK might actually become president because he took the wrong position on Israel-Palestine, if you catch my drift. Yeah, I do catch your drift. And, hey, man, if he can get on the ballot, he's got a shot. He's polling very well. This is the thing. People said, oh, well, now he's dead because of this. This is where you have to recognize that there's a real split between the online commentariat world and broader America.
Right.
However, I do think that by this time next year, this will be seen by the overwhelming majority of Americans, even, as just one of the horrific chapters in human history. This is why Caitlin Johnston sent that tweet out. Everybody who's supporting this now, just understand you're going to have a lot to answer for and not a lot of time.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people realize that. That's why you're not seeing as much. Even when I post about this shit, I got some Zionists floating around my social media. They don't say anything.
Right.
They don't want to go on record. Not really.
They don't want to because they know. Alrighty, folks. That is our show for the evening. Once again, you can help support our project here by going to patreon.com/DoDissidents and becoming a member. We had about a half a dozen of you guys sign up over the course of this show. Once again, we get to 500 members. Pardon me. We will add a fourth stream per week. You also get, as a benefit of signing up, call-in access to our post-show question and answers, which are every Sunday night over on Rumble. And tonight is Sunday night, so you know what that means. We are going to end the show right now, take a 5-minute break, and continue our post-show after party over on Rumble. So the YouTube stream will end now. If you are here on YouTube and you want to hang out with us a little bit more this evening, go to rumble.com/DoDissidents. Patrons, paid Substackers, and paid Locals members will have call-in access to the Q&A. Everyone else can put their questions in the Rumble chat. Just put it at DoDissidents so Jake can see it. And, of course, if you can help us out with a Rumble rant, that guarantees that it can be noticed and posted and read, and that helps keep the operation afloat. So we'll see you on Rumble in 5 minutes for the Q&A. If you're not going there, we will see you again on Wednesday. Post-duopoly show, I believe, is Tuesday afternoon this time at 1:30 p.m. over on RBN.
And I'm going to be on Misty's show tomorrow night.
Oh, beautiful. Excellent. Excellent. That's amazing. So, yeah, Russell will be on the Misty Winston show tomorrow. She goes on at 5 o'clock now, right?
Yeah,
they changed
5
her up.
Eastern time, yep.
They changed her up because of the daylight savings thing. All right, so Russell's on Misty Winston tomorrow. Then we're on. So Russell's got no break. Russell's on Misty Winston tomorrow, RBN on Tuesday, back here Wednesday night. Everybody who wants to join us, rumble.com/DoDissidents for the Q&A in 5 minutes. Otherwise, we'll see you Wednesday. Thank you very much for being here, everybody. We will see you next time. Until then, please be safe and be well.
Courage, dissidents.
Please clap.